the fire, spark the tree.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
You like music, you like weed, well, we gonna be good friends indeed. This is not much I like more than smoking trees. They'll make you dance the do-si-do and teach you how the chiva grows. Smoke a bowl on the 420 radio show. On Lifestyle Radio.
Nobody sung with me this morning.
No singing, man. No singing for this guy.
I don't sing.
God,
we need Marcel. He's the singer.
Marcel's the singer. He'll be along, and eventually Chris, I'm sure, will be when he wakes up. Hello to anybody who's listening. We are the crew of the 420 Radio Show and Pace Radio. I'm Al Rapp, and Al Graham is here, and Kim Cooper will be along, and Laurie McEachern is here. Marcel Ginac will be here, and Ross is hiding somewhere with a bad mic in his store, so he may have to run away if somebody comes in.
Sorry about the bad mic.
Yeah, that's
Debbie's hiding over there too.
And I was going to get to Debbie. Hi, Debbie. I left Debbie to the after because it's her birthday. So let's all sing happy birthday to Debbie. No, we won't do that. I won't embarrass myself.
Do we have a song instead?
Maybe later. For now, I'm gonna turn this up so we don't miss anything, and the music we're listening to is the music playing through on the teleconferencing line for Health Canada. We're waiting for the stuff to start. I can turn it down a little bit so that everybody can talk over it. Can everybody hear that?
I can hear it.
Yeah, and just ambient white noise in the background.
Government approved elevator.
I was saying earlier, to me, it sounds like Olympic music. Just listen for a minute. Boogie down, man.
Sounds like royalty free stuff.
Boogie down. Yeah, get down, get funky, and get back up again.
Royalty-free stuff, yeah, really.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, God.
This was Al's Wonder Child, so Al, I'll play with levels here, and Al, why don't you tell people what they're listening to. We're calling this the Wait and Bake.
Yes, the wait and bake. We're all waiting to hear what the recommendations are from the task force that has been several months been working on recommendations that they're going to put towards the government on what legalization could look like. We have to remember that these are only recommendations and they're non-binding. The Liberal government could decide to tighten things down more, or they could decide to loosen up things. So I thought we'd spend this first little while here while we wait for the announcement, going over opinions and thoughts of what could be coming down the pipe.
Yeah, we're also sitting in the chat room at lifestyleradio.net and 420radio.ca. Either or, have a look at both. Come on in, and if you got any questions, if you want to join in the conversations, please do. The announcement, I don't believe starts until 10:45?
10:45, another 20 minutes. Correct.
Okay. So I'll let Al have a conversation with everybody who's here, and I'm going to do what I do.
All right. Okay, well, what's Laurie, Ross, Deb? What's your opinions? What do you think could be happening here? Do you think that, as John Iveson has commented in his National Post article, he's not seeing anything along the lines of storefronts? He's looking along the same line as the medical cannabis program, where it's all going to be mail order.
Yeah, that's what he said in the article. Let's see if he's right. Personally, I'm hoping for the best, but expecting the worst.
Correct. I'd be along the same line. Always hopefully that, back when the Liberals first brought it to their, in their meetings and stuff to be voted on, there was an allowance in Resolution 117 to allow home growing, and that they understood that there's no way that they could ever eliminate it. So it'd be interesting to see if the recommendations follow that, or if they've eliminated it completely, only to see if in the end whether they make a change in the final assessment.
And it would be a big mistake if they didn't, right? Yeah.
What I was saying, I was saying earlier that in my estimation, it just, for some reason, it occurred to me that I believe the actual legalization model is going to affect the medicinal users of Canada far more than anything I think I realized before, because if you can't find a doctor, if your own doctor isn't willing to make you legal, and you can't find a doctor who will, or you can't pay a clinic to buy a signature, you're basically screwed. And so this actually gives them the opportunity. I was thinking, even if it was 6 plants, that's more than a lot of people get under the medical program.
Yes, some people think
and
that
for a lot
possibility.
Of people, I think for a lot of people with medical need, this is their only option to actually be quote unquote legal.
Without a doctor, yeah. Which is important because so many doctors are being jerks about this. I mean, let's face it. At least having something, being able to grow some, under the recreational program would be like a godsend for those people who can't get their doctor to sign.
Yes, there are.
Exactly. And even if it is a legal mail order system, that's what they have for medicinal, quote unquote, access now, right?
Well, they do have that.
And let's face it, dispensaries that do mail order probably do better than ones that don't, because 99% of Canadians probably don't live in a big city where there is a dispensary.
Christmas is coming up. It's December the 22nd. I got to order some cannabis for my holidays. Will it reach me in time? Not likely. Anything along that line, obviously.
Doesn't it depend on who you order from and how they get it delivered, and whether or not it's a dependable method of delivery, and what the time frame is, and if you pay for a delivery, and oh my God.
Turnaround time, holidays, all that can be a problem. But I know that some of the discussion has been, should they combine the two programs, the medicinal program and recreational? That almost sounds like what I agree. It will make it easier for patients who are having problems. Like I had a conversation with a friend of mine this morning here on Facebook there, and that's what they were saying. Like, I put my paperwork in October. Why am I still waiting to hear on my license? Here it is. 2 months. Yeah.
So it's gone from a 23-day turnaround. See, this is what they have to anticipate this.
There's a lot of people coming in now, so now they're going to get the big flood, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Wasn't I just seeing numbers like 98,000 people are signed up for LPs?
Yeah, there's 1,100 that have signed up under the ACMPR to grow.
Right.
Yeah. There's like 29,000 people now.
Explain something to me, guys. When you go to an LP, once you go to your doctor, okay, and you've got your whatever you got from your doctor to go to the LP with. Now, isn't it the LP's responsibility to notify Health Canada, or do you have to do that as well?
No, I don't think they notify Health Canada at all, and you don't have to either. But they do have to. I don't know if they might send a copy to Health Canada, but I think it would just be a formality.
So Health Canada is only going to be having records themselves of people who want a DG or grow for themselves, basically. Unless they're dealing with an LP, of course.
Good point.
The LPs have to inform Health Canada of their numbers.
But not individual information.
Not my understanding of the individual people.
So why is it that's double work?
The government needs to know the government says they need to know who's growing for situations when it comes to like law enforcement.
That's really, I don't know what to say to that.
Well, if they're investigating, something, they want to know if they're raiding a legal spot. But other than that, yeah, you're right. I don't see any need for it.
See, Mr. Rosen in the chat room says that he Greenleaf sent his paperwork off to an LP, and he hasn't heard anything from Health Canada. And I don't expect that you would hear anything from Health Canada.
Yeah, and we've already got an email. We've got an email from your friend. Is it Yvonne or Yvonne?
Yeah, it was Yvonne, and I see that's basically the discussion. Mr. Rosen's point is the same thing as what Yvonne is going.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, and so I have told her that it could be 6 to 8 weeks, and it's been that now. So I know if the MMA are, we could just call, find out what's going on. What's happening.
You can still do that, but you'll be on hold with that government-approved elevator music for a while.
We've already got the elevator music, so let's just sit here and wait.
Okay, I've been sitting here thinking about the numbers you guys threw out there. You said there's 1,100 have been processed through the ACMPR so far.
To grow, yeah.
Okay, and the turnaround has gone from somebody reported 23 days at the beginning of this to you're saying now a couple of months and nothing.
Correct.
And they've only done 1,100, and there's 28,000 of us sitting under the injunction. How long would it take for them to process us?
Oh, that's why they haven't done anything.
I think legalization might be here a little quicker than we expect. And why would Health Canada ask for that workload? Why would they petition for the injunction to be discontinued before they legalize?
Exactly. That's
right.
Why they're not.
I don't know if that dropping the injunction is something that's going to be petitioned. I think that's just going to be something that when Judge Phelan is happy or feels like his remedy's been met, he'll lift it himself, or he may never lift it at all. It could just stay forever. That's the possibilities, right?
Well, they already said that the ACMPR was a stopgap measure. It was only temporary on the way to the whatever the end is going to look like, right?
Right. And some people are concerned that they may go the way that Washington State went, where they basically destroyed the medical program.
Right.
But in my opinion,
that's always been my concern.
Yeah, but the thing is, Washington State didn't have a federal court order, forcing them into keeping some sort of medical program, and a Section 7 charter violation is still a Section 7 charter violation under the current ACMPR or under the new legalization program. So you can't violate people's rights just because you're rolling it into legalization. So I think they're kind of forced into having a separate medicinal program kind of on a different channel than the legalization process. That's my opinion, but hey, we'll see.
No, you make a very good point. And that was one of my main concerns after hearing what had happened in Washington, was that that's what it was going to happen here, is it was all going to be rolled into one. But you make the very good point about the federally mandated by the Supreme Court and every other court case that happens to have been of any consequence in the last 15, 16 years, right?
Yeah, so just because you roll it into legalization legislation doesn't mean it's open season on violating people's charter rights again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
That's true.
Sorry, I thought something was happening. Never mind, I got excited.
That's
no. I agree. Yeah, for
9 minutes. Let's see. What do you think about this age thing that they're discussing? They've talked about 18. They've talked about the same as alcohol. They talked about 21, 25.
What did Iverson say? Iverson said 21, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he's saying that it'll be up to the provinces to decide all that.
Right, if it's a health issue, it would be a provincial issue, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That announcement that this is going to be a health issue rather than a justice one goes far beyond just. Yeah, that goes far beyond just on the surface. You know what I mean? That also has repercussions on a provincial level as far as transfer payments and all that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because rather than being a federal crime, it's now a provincial health issue. Woo-hoo.
Well, I was glad to see how they moved that over to health issues from justice issues yesterday.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Where it belongs, right?
Oh, good voice.
I hear Deb.
There wasn't more hoopla about that.
Deb, can you fix your mic a little bit, please?
It is. I was kind of surprised.
I can do with it.
Really? Wow, yes. You're really low. Wow, man. This is getting real trippy, man. Ross is having issues.
Yell into the mic.
I'm quite happy.
Yeah. May I suggest that you look in your microphone settings and turn up your microphone a little bit? That might help.
Oh, here's a little ray of sunshine. Maybe, possibly, with the combination of the health rather than justice and the new program coming, they're going to be starting to look at shit more like Portugal rather than Washington.
I don't even think they've even mentioned Portugal, have they? In any of the
Portugal hasn't legalized; they just decriminalized. They
everything.
They still arrest people for everything but possession.
No,
it's all drug.
No, they don't.
You know,
they don't.
No.
They laughed. In Michael Moore's movie, he asked them, "What if I get caught with cocaine?" They said, "Well, we'll refer you to somebody that can help you with your problem."
Right, but that's possession, right? I'm talking about
he said, "Aren't you going to arrest me?" And they laughed. They said, "No."
No, not for possession. They won't. But or production or smuggling, they will.
Oh well, yeah. If you're part of the distribution network, that's entirely different.
Right. But so it's just simple possession.
Part of the distribution network, it's really not a health issue; it's a money issue.
Yes. True.
Right?
What about?
We have to discern here that there is a difference.
Here's a future problem. Here's a future problem we may run into, and that is supply. If they're having problems supplying 100,000 patients, how are they going to supply millions? Will they ease up on their regulations and stuff for licensed producers, or will they bring in people such as the craft cannabis to allow them to start producing?
Or look at some of those other thousands of applications they have.
I was going to say there's 1,000 people in the queue that they'll probably just start approving more. That's all.
Yeah, you think they'll speed that up?
Welcome to the conference call for the report of the Task Force on Cannabis Legalization and Regulation. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, et bienvenue à l'appel conférence pour le rapport du groupe de travail sur la légalisation et la réglementation du cannabis.
At least you know it works.
Please note that during the question and answer session, if you have a question, please press *1. If you have a question and you're using a speakerphone, please lift your handset before making your selection. Should you wish to cancel your question, please press the # sign. Once again, please continue to stand by, and we thank you for your patience.
Okay, so stand
Veuillez
by.
noter que durant la période de questions et réponses, si vous avez une question, vous appuyez sur étoile 1. Si vous utilisez un téléphone main libre, veuillez soulever le combiné avant d'effectuer votre sélection. Si vous désirez annuler votre question, vous appuyez sur le dièse. Nous vous prions de bien vouloir attendre quelques instants et nous vous remercions de patienter.
see we have Kim's keyboard online.
Are we still live with Dead Air now that they've gone on?
Yep. Talk amongst yourselves. You'll hear it when it starts.
All righty.
Okay. Hi, Kim.
Okay,
3 more minutes. TikTok.
TikTok, yeah. Kim is using a new system that she's just got hooked up. Her mic is muted. Good. Well, let's see. What else could we discuss here while we're waiting? When alcohol became illegal,
Everyone was tuned into their computers then too, I bet.
They were. But when it became legal, did it all of a sudden come full out legalization? Or as we're seeing in Ontario here, 100 years later, we're just finally getting access to it at stores.
Can I ask that when you're not talking, you mute your mic because the rustling is driving my brain crazy? Somebody
Can you
else.
guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm just getting this mic thing set up here.
You can shut your video off as well. You can shut your video off as well, Kim.
All right, I'm trying to do that.
New systems. Okay, what about in places like Quebec, where they have come out and said that if you're going to legalize cannabis, you can look after it. We don't want to do anything about it.
I think it's going to be It's going to kind of leave it the way things are now, right? And you're going to have all these dispensaries just opening up illegally. I heard that they're opening something like 5 in Montreal, like today.
I know that,
and they're all they're cannabis culture ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I know they're opening up 2.
2? Is it? Okay. So I think. I don't think the legalization legislation is going to have an opt-out clause. It's like if you don't deal with it in your province, then people are just going to be left to their own devices, right?
Yes.
So I know the Calgary police chief when he first heard about it, he said, "Well, we don't care if they legalize or not. We're going to keep on arresting people. Like there was an opt-out clause."
So everybody knows the deal. One question, one follow-up.
Good luck with that.
After deal with BC folks, so I'll get the thing open shortly.
What was that?
I didn't. I heard voices, but I couldn't make it out.
First in English, then Ware will do.
French, I see. It's started, I guess. There we go. I'm going to turn this up so we can hear it.
Everybody groupie?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course you are. All right, that's good.
If I can ask everybody to mute their mics.
Yeah, shutting off my phone.
Okay. I guess I was a little early.
It is 10:45.
Yeah, and we are still in the queue, so.
Typical government, eh?
I was just thinking that, they're never on time.
No. I mean, they keep you waiting for everything.
That was a standing joke when I used to work in high tech, was that people in the government, if they ever came out and worked in the real world, they would just not lie.
They can hear us. They could listen. They could listen in and hear us.
I know.
Right? Okay.
Well, it's a challenge. Hey, do your job. Put your phone away.
They lose all their customers.
I have company.
You have company?
Yes, I have someone sitting here beside me. Wayne has shown up at my door, and he's here listening with us.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Wayne. It got real quiet.
Hi, Wayne.
Hey, how you doing? I'll be right back. Inspection day tomorrow, Wayne?
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go, guys.
For the report of the chair and vice chair of the Task Force on Cannabis Legalization and Regulation. We have the Honourable Anne McLellan. She will lead off with the English portion, and after that, Dr. Mark Ware. He's the vice chair, and he'll be doing the French section. And then we have to be done by about 11:30. So I'll open the question list and hand over to Anne McLellan.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tous et toutes. I am Anne McLellan, and I am chair of the Task Force on Cannabis Legalization and Regulation. With me is Dr. Mark Ware, who has served as vice chair to this task force. On behalf of the 9-person task force, we are pleased today to present our report, a framework for the legalization and regulation of cannabis in Canada, to the Ministers of Justice, Public Safety and Health. This report fulfills our mandate to consult and provide independent advice on the design of a new legislative and regulatory framework. I would like to thank all task force members for their dedication and thoughtful counsel throughout this process. Members volunteered time and energy throughout the summer and fall to develop this report. Their expertise in the fields of public health, law enforcement, and justice were essential in ensuring that this report reflects an understanding of the perspectives we heard. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Mr. Bill Blair, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice, who served as government liaison to the task force and provided valuable support throughout this process. The advice contained in our report is the culmination of more than 5 months of work. We traveled across the country and heard from Canadians, including representatives of Indigenous communities, parents, youth, and patients who use cannabis for medical purposes. We spent time with experts and organizations who shared their diverse perspectives and helped us to appreciate the complexities of legalization and regulation. We met with officials from provincial, territorial, municipal, and Indigenous governments who emphasized the need for close collaboration amongst all levels of government. We traveled to Colorado and Washington and spoke to officials in the government of Uruguay, the only other country to have legalized access to cannabis, to hear directly from those who have had first-hand experience enacting systems for legal access to cannabis. Mark and I would like to thank all of those with whom we met, as well as those experts, organizations, and Canadians who took the time to provide us with close to 30,000 responses. Our report contains more than 80 recommendations. Our advice details safeguards we believe are important to achieve the objectives set out by the government to better protect the health and safety of Canadians by regulating access to cannabis. Our report presents measures to create a viable legal market, which will be essential to meet the government's objective of displacing the entrenched illicit market that exists in Canada today. And in setting out these measures, we recommend taking a public health approach to minimize harms associated with cannabis use. We recommend a series of actions to educate Canadians in advance of the coming changes in order to increase overall awareness and knowledge of cannabis, including risks related to impaired driving. We recommend the establishment of a well-regulated production, manufacturing, and distribution environment, including production safety controls, which would specify important things like appropriate pesticide use, safe packaging, and labeling requirements. We recommend rules to protect youth, including a minimum age of 18, to purchase cannabis and restrictions on marketing and promotional activities. Generally, we believe that it is appropriate to proceed with caution. We are only the second nation to move forward in this way, and we were told by those who have gone before to expect surprises. While there are important lessons to be learned from places like Colorado and Washington State, designing and implementing a Canadian system is a unique undertaking. Continued research will help us to better understand and mitigate risks associated with problematic use. We also encourage additional research to enhance our understanding of the health benefits of cannabis. This is particularly important when considering questions of cannabis for medical use. We did hear compelling accounts from patients who told us of the benefits they experience from cannabis use, and from researchers and the medical community who call for more evidence to better understand its therapeutic potential. It is for this reason, as well as existing jurisprudence, that we recommend maintaining the current regulations for medical access to cannabis. In our judgment, the government will be in a better position to determine changes to the medical access system once the new system for legal access is established. As we make clear in our report, certain activities should remain subject to criminal penalties. For example, those who are found to be producing outside the legal system, or who are found to be selling to minors or into international markets, or who operate a motor vehicle while impaired by cannabis. On the other hand, we believe that administrative sanctions, such as tickets or fines, are appropriate for minor offenses. The overall integrity and success of this new system depends in large part on the effective enforcement of the new rules. Therefore, we encourage all levels of government to make the necessary investments to increase capacity in enforcement activities, especially in the initial years of implementation. Our report makes clear that this initiative is complex and that collaboration among governments is critical to its overall success. The recommendations in our report, taken together, outline the foundation for a new system of regulatory safeguards for legal access to cannabis that aims to better protect health and to enhance public safety. We provide our report to the ministers today with the conviction that Canada is well positioned to undertake this work carefully and safely. Thank you for your attention, and I will now ask my Vice Chair, Dr. Mark Ware, to make some remarks. Mark.
Merci, Anne, et bonjour tout le monde. Comme Madame McLellan l'a indiqué, je suis le Dr. Mark Ware et j'assume la fonction de vice-président dans ce groupe de travail indépendant. À titre de médecin clinicien qui s'intéresse particulièrement à la gestion de la douleur, j'étudie depuis longtemps le cannabis à des fins médicales. J'ai pu constater un changement dans la culture canadienne qui nous a menés au point où nous sommes. Pour moi, la présentation de ce rapport constitue une étape importante et positive dans cette évolution. Et c'est un honneur pour moi d'y avoir joué un rôle. J'aimerais faire écho aux paroles de Mme McLellan et remercier tous ceux qui ont participé au processus de consultation. J'aimerais aussi remercier les membres du groupe de travail pour leur dévouement et leur enthousiasme. En particulier, j'aimerais remercier notre présidente pour son leadership. En lui demandant de présider ce groupe de travail, le gouvernement a fait le bon choix. Je pense que je peux parler au nom de l'ensemble du groupe de travail lorsque je dis que ce rapport n'aurait pas été produit en aussi peu de temps et avec une telle qualité sans son leadership et son dévouement. Je ne répéterai pas tout ce que Mme McLellan a dit en ce qui concerne la formulation de plus de 80 recommandations dans le rapport. Toutefois, j'aimerais mettre en évidence certains aspects. Nos recommandations décrivent en détail les mesures de protection qui, selon nous, sont importantes pour atteindre les objectifs établis par le gouvernement qui sont de mieux protéger la santé et la sécurité des Canadiens en réglementant l'accès au cannabis. Notre rapport présente des mesures visant à créer un marché légal. Cela rencontre les objectifs du gouvernement et sera essentiel pour enrayer le marché clandestin de la drogue qui existe au Canada aujourd'hui. Dans la mise en œuvre de ces mesures, nous recommandons avant tout que le gouvernement adopte une approche de santé publique afin de réduire au minimum les effets néfastes associés à la consommation de cannabis. Cela veut dire qu'il faut être conscient des risques associés aux habitudes de consommation, des risques pour les populations vulnérables, ainsi que ceux liés au marché clandestin de la drogue. Nous recommandons de permettre la culture personnelle à petite échelle en tant que moyen de rechange pour les consommateurs pour se procurer du cannabis. Afin de limiter les risques, nous recommandons des mesures de protection appropriées telles que des limites quant à la quantité et à la taille des plantes, des interdictions relatives au processus de fabrication, des mesures de sécurité raisonnables et une surveillance par les autorités locales. En général, nous estimons qu'il est approprié d'agir prudemment. Davantage de recherche nous aidera à mieux comprendre et à atténuer les risques associés à la consommation du cannabis et d'en comprendre aussi les avantages. La question est particulièrement importante lorsqu'on étudie l'usage du cannabis à des fins médicales. Nous avons entendu les récits convaincants des patients qui nous ont raconté les bienfaits qu'ils retirent de la consommation du cannabis, ainsi que des chercheurs et du milieu médical qui demandent davantage de données afin d'obtenir une compréhension plus approfondie du potentiel thérapeutique. Les intérêts des médecins et des patients seront bien servis par l'avancement des recherches scientifiques et cliniques sur l'utilisation thérapeutique du cannabis. Nous reconnaissons aussi l'importance d'élaborer et de mettre en œuvre des efforts de sensibilisation fondés sur les données probantes pour ceux qui travailleront à établir un nouveau système de réglementation du cannabis. Les Canadiens ont besoin de renseignements appropriés, équilibrés et crédibles sur le cannabis afin de s'assurer que les efforts stratégiques tiennent compte de leurs besoins. De nouveaux renseignements émergeront sans doute au fur et à mesure que nous mettons en place et surveillerons la nouvelle réglementation sur le cannabis. Nous soulignons la nécessité de faire preuve de souplesse dans l'intégration des nouvelles connaissances dans la politique. Comme l'indique notre rapport, cette initiative est complexe et la collaboration entre les gouvernements est cruciale pour sa réussite globale. Les recommandations émises dans le rapport exposent les fondements de nouveaux systèmes réglementaires visant l'accès légal au cannabis, afin de mieux protéger la santé et d'améliorer la santé publique. Comme l'a dit la présidente, nous présentons aujourd'hui notre rapport au ministre avec la conviction que le Canada est en bonne posture pour entreprendre ce travail avec prudence et de façon sécuritaire. Je vous remercie. Nous prendrons maintenant vos questions.
So we have 12 colleagues on this list, and we were allotted till about 11:30 for questions, and we've still got to get to the phones for a couple West Coast after that. So consider the question list now closed, and we'll begin with Daniel LeBlanc of the Globe and Mail.
Hello, Mr. McLellan.
Good morning. How are you, Daniel?
Very good. So the government will present legislation in the spring of next year. Do you think the regime can be put in place in 2017, 2018, 2019? When do you think this can be in place?
That is actually a decision for the Government of Canada. Our mandate was to provide advice to the government as to how they could go about legalization and creating a regulatory regime. Timelines from this point on in relation to implementation issues are up to the Government of Canada.
There are rules on production and distribution that you propose. How do you will this be corporate cannabis, or do you want this to be more of a corporate cannabis culture that people who are already in the business can also join in, or will it only be corporate cannabis that can do this, be part of it?
I think it's very clear that we heard from a great many parties that they wanted a diversity of producers. And we agree with that. I'm not sure that how I would define your phrase, corporate Canada, but what I would say is that our goal is a diversity of producers. And even now, with the licensed producers, many people don't understand that there are large licensed producers, but the vast majority of them aren't large. Some of them are actually quite small and have been able to meet the regulatory standards presently in place. So we would like to see, we know there are lots of growers out there, Daniel, who are producing illegally, obviously, outside the system. We would hope that at least some of those, will wish to come within the new legal regime and will be able to meet the standards to do that.
Prochain.
Sorry, go ahead.
Excuse-moi. Louis Blouin, Société Radio-Canada.
Monsieur Dr. Ware, j'aimerais savoir au niveau de l'échéancier. D'après vous, c'est réaliste de faire ça? Quand le gouvernement aurait besoin de combien de temps, d'après vous, avant de pouvoir légaliser formellement?
C'est une question, comme Madame la Présidente a dit, que c'est une question premièrement pour le gouvernement. Nous avons déposé notre rapport au ministre et c'est pour eux de décider le timing pour la mise en place de législation et en fait finalement d'avoir la cannabis légale.
Ça vous inquiète de voir qu'il semble manquer beaucoup de preuves scientifiques, notamment ce qui a trait avec les conduites avec les facultés affaiblies. La quantité de travail, de recherche scientifique qui reste à faire, il faudra du temps pour faire ça, non?
C'est important de savoir qu'il y a un bon cadre de travail, de recherche qui déjà existe. Et nous avons écouté dans notre processus plusieurs interprétations des données existantes et le besoin de nouveaux données. La meilleure chose que nous pouvons faire dans ce rapport, c'est d'établir un mécanisme pour faire plus de recherche, pour comprendre mieux les effets de cannabis sur la rue et d'essayer de prévenir les problèmes et les problèmes de santé que le cannabis peut être associé.
On CBC.
We've opted to suggest a storefront model. I think when you look at what's happening in a lot of communities with dispensaries right now, that's causing serious concern. So I wonder how you see this new model shaping up and whether or not some of those concerns about dispensaries will continue to exist under this new model.
As you are probably aware, in the report in Chapter 3, we talk about not only production and manufacturing, but wholesale and retail distribution. And we make the point very clearly that actually wholesale and retail distribution is within the jurisdiction of the provinces and territories. And that was a position, as you can imagine, the provinces and territories made very clear to us. So final decisions around the form of retail will be up to provinces, probably working with municipalities and the communities they represent. But certainly there are a number of models which we discuss in the report. But at the end of the day, we are very respectful of the fact that any final decision around that model will be up to the provinces, probably in consultation with municipalities and local communities.
Note that you talk about maintaining criminal penalties in some areas. I believe that the present government's platform commitment was actually to increase the criminal penalties when it comes to things like selling to youth. I wonder if you have any thoughts on, in fact, whether we ought to see harsher punishments in some cases.
Well, we clearly talk about the fact that it is important for us as a task force to retain or maintain criminal sanctions. What the exact penalty might be or sentence in relation to those criminal prohibitions would be something that I am sure the Department of Justice would take a look at. But we did not make recommendations in terms of the exact, should it be a minimum sentence or should it be X number of years, summary conviction versus indictment. No, those were not things that we saw within our mandate, but we were pretty clear about the kinds of things that we thought should continue to be subject to criminal prohibition.
David Younger, Reuters.
You talk about the desire to set up a diverse market, but isn't it the case that once cannabis is legalized, the large producers are going to ramp up production? How do you protect the little ones from being squished and not having a chance to get off the ground?
I think let me say that, first of all, we make the point that diversity is an important value in relation to the producers. There will be means by which the government, going forward through implementation, could ensure a certain degree of diversity. There are different kinds of market interventions that a government could choose to adopt or apply to ensure a degree of diversity. And going forward, I think as the market develops, we recommend that is something that the government watch pretty carefully.
Between watching carefully and actually recommending they do it, do you think the government should bring in some of these measures you're talking about?
I think the government needs to understand the value of a diverse market with growers of different sizes and arguably different expertise and so on. But at the end of the day, how that market ultimately develops is up to the Government of Canada and, quite honestly, the marketplace.
Cheadle, the Canadian Press.
Hi, you mentioned the diversity of views you received. I'm just wondering what the task force, if there was an issue you found most vexing, and where were the areas where you found the most kind of commonality, where there was broad consensus?
Yeah, I think over the course of the months that we spent on this report, there were several issues that came up that were predominantly that took the longest parts of discussion. Cannabis and driving was one. The age at which cannabis use should be considered legal. These were probably two of the major ones. The less stringent issues were probably the federal-provincial jurisdictions regarding cultivation on the federal side, provincial responsibility for managing the retail side of things. So those were probably the two ends of the extremes in terms of what was most challenging and where there was most alignment.
You mentioned this is a federal initiative, and yet you're recommending that provinces and municipalities do the regulation. Did you get any pushback from provinces or municipalities that saying we don't want to have to be the ones to bring this in?
I think in the same way that we heard a diversity of opinions from Canadians, we heard a diversity of opinions from the provinces and territories. Some of them were much more prepared and ready to engage. Some of them were still in the process of working through their own thinking on the issues. So I think what we hope to do is to see really strong collaboration between the federal government and the provinces to ensure that there's adequate support, that there's adequate collaboration, and that these models emerge and roll out in as effective and as safe a way as possible.
Julie Van Dusen.
Hi, McLellan. I noticed you use words like prudence and caution and surprise as the way to and so on. Are you convinced that legalization is the way to go, and if so, why? Yes. I think obviously all 9 members of the task force would not have taken up this task over the past 5 months if we did not believe that as a matter of public policy, legalization now is the time to move away from a system that for decades has been based on prohibition of cannabis into a regulated legal market. And I think we're all aware of the challenges and societal problems that the existing system has created. Certainly the existing system of prohibition has allowed illicit criminal organizations to flourish in this area. We have also seen, because of criminal code prohibitions against simple possession, the criminalization of many Canadians, many young Canadians, and we know the effects of the long-term, if you like, stigma and consequences of a criminal conviction. So there's no question that you look not only in this country and where people and Canadians' thinking is at, but in many other jurisdictions, that people are coming to the conclusion that the prohibition, the prohibitory regime that has existed is not working, and it is not meeting the basic principles of public health and safety that have to be at the core of this kind of public policy.
Well, you talked about all those people that have criminal records. What happens to them? Are you suggesting an amnesty? I didn't see it in
that was not part of our mandate. We are forward-looking in terms of after with legalization, what would a new regulatory regime look like in this country? It will be up to the Minister of Justice to determine if she and the Government of Canada wish to make any recommendation in relation to those who have been convicted of simple possession in the past.
Paul Vera, the Wall Street Journal.
Kind of tied into what Julie just asked, but you mentioned Uruguay, that Canada is going to be the largest advanced economy that's going down this road. How much pressure is there on policymakers to get this right? And did the lack of global experience, were there places that did provide some insight? With any of the U.S. states? Where did you go that was most helpful to learn about how to do this?
To your first point, it's very important, I should think, to the Government of Canada to get this right. It was important to us as a task force to become as well informed as possible and provide the most concrete, balanced recommendations, keeping in mind the government's overall public policy objectives around public safety and public health. In terms of jurisdictions, Mark took half the task force to Colorado, and you might like to comment a bit on some of the useful lessons we learned there. I took half of the task force to Washington. The basic lessons, I think, are expect surprises. It doesn't matter. We can look at what Colorado has done and the surprises they dealt with. We can look at Washington. We can look at Uruguay. But there will still be surprises. And to your point, we are the largest developed country to ever move on legalization. And therefore, Uruguay is an important example, but a country of some 3.6 million people. And therefore, some of their challenges were different, some of them easier to meet than will be the case here at home in Canada. But we went where we thought it would be the most useful for us in terms of learning lessons and hopefully helping the government avoid unintended consequences going forward. But Mark, you might like to comment on some of the lessons that we have learned from others.
We were very impressed at the time that people gave us from jurisdictions like Colorado, Washington State, Uruguay, the time they gave us to share with us the experiences that they had had in designing and implementing their policies. The key takeaways for us predominantly were, these are the mistakes we made, don't make the same mistakes we did, know that you're going into territory that is relatively unfounded, and learn as you go. Make sure that you set up the baseline measures so that you understand where you're starting from. And then as the policy rolls out, as the country learns to manage with this new regulatory framework, you are constantly learning as you go along. And that can then, and you build flexibility into the framework that allows it to adapt as you go.
Very quickly on the just mistakes. I think one of the mistakes you pointed out in the report was taxation, about somehow some jurisdictions put the taxation too high, and that had effects on the illicit contribution. Just on the whole section of taxation, are you suggesting that all the revenue that is raised go back into law enforcement and public health? Is that my understanding, as opposed to general revenue?
I don't think we quantify. I know we don't quantify where 100% of the revenue should go. And in fact, the whole question around revenue going forward is one on which there is a wide variety at this point of nothing more than guesses and estimates. But we do make the case clearly in this report, and maybe Mark and I would both and the task force underscore this, for all governments that revenue that is gained from creating this new legal market, some substantial part of it, especially at the outset, should be going into public education, should be going into enforcement, inspection, should be going into ensuring that the Government of Canada on the production side has the capacity and expertise to license producers who apply in a timely fashion. All this, there is going to have to be additional capacity built to deliver this system, to implement this system, and get it off the ground in a successful way. This is going to take upfront resources long before government sees any revenue. And then in terms of your question, the revenue stream, we do make some pretty clear recommendations in terms of where we think at least some part of that revenue should go.
For global news.
You talked, actually Dr. Ware talked about how vexing and difficult it was on setting, on the implementation and testing for impairment. How troubling of an aspect was this for you, given that you're essentially going to throw the doors open to legalization, but not be able to sort of get the horses back in afterwards if somebody takes the wheel and they're impaired? Because you acknowledge in the report that there's no real good test yet.
People need to keep in mind that drug-impaired driving is already a problem or a challenge in this country, right? This is not going to be a new challenge that is created by legalization. Drug-impaired driving is a problem or a challenge in Canada today. That is why the science is very quickly catching up to the challenge. But are we quite there yet? No. But right now, for example, the OPP, the RCMP, and other police forces across the country are testing, at least to the best of my knowledge, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 roadside oral fluid testing devices to determine which, if any of those 3, might be, let me call it the breakthrough, that science and law enforcement and government and Canadians are all hoping for. It is clear that THC metabolizes differently in the body than alcohol metabolizes in the blood. That's why you can't simply adopt a BAC approach to determining impairment, and that's what you've got to focus on here. It's not actually the amount of THC in the blood, but it's around the question of impairment. And what I would say is that there is a lot of research being done, not only in Canada, but around the world, because this is an ongoing challenge. The Australians have done some interesting work, obviously in the United States, some good scientific work is being done. And in the report, as you probably are aware, the Drug and Driving Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Canadian forensic scientists, have been charged by the Department of Justice and the Department of Public Safety to look at this very question. Is it possible, based on the science, to create a per se limit, such as we have with alcohol? And they have been asked that question, among others, as it relates to drug-impaired driving. I think the government anticipates a report from the DDC in the coming months. And we hope that the DDC takes a look in terms of what we say about drug-impaired, cannabis-impaired driving. At the bottom, at the end of all this, we have been brought up in a society where you don't drink and drive. You should not take cannabis in whatever form and drive. And that should be a key part of any public education campaign, which we are also recommending.
Well, Dr. Ware, being a doctor who has researched this for years, how difficult was it for you? Or did you wrestle with the minimum age of 18, given that there is some medical evidence out there showing that the brain is still developing up to 25, balancing it with the illicit drug trade and how we know that the use would be higher in that sort of age bracket? For you as a medical professional, how difficult is it to set 18 as a limit?
I think that the challenge of setting an age limit is always the balance between the potential risks to to the brain and to the developing adolescent health versus the risk of the black market. And so there was always this balance between trying to ensure that there was safety on one side and safety on the other, quite frankly. The science in many areas of cannabis is sometimes non-existent. Sometimes it's contradictory. There are studies which show one thing, there are other studies that show others. There are differences in interpretation of the same data. During our report, we had several reviews coming out of Colorado about whether the experiment there was successful or not. And the same data, people draw very different conclusions. So in this particular area, we're constantly challenged by data interpretation and sometimes lack of data. I think that where we've arrived is a fairly sensible point at which to draw a line that Canadian adults can make decisions. The critical point is that they're educated and informed about the decision that they're making. And I think that's the critical piece. The age, to some extent, is a line in the sand. What matters is how we teach parents, children, the public about what the potential risks and harms of cannabis use are, especially when used very young, 12, 13, especially high concentrations of THC at very early age, especially high frequency. But also, it's not just the drug, it's the social determinants of health that go around people who are using cannabis that early, that much. There are other issues going on. We cannot separate the drug use itself from the society that people live in who are using drugs in that way. So we have to address all of these factors. And I think where we've arrived is a fairly decent balance and something that we should work with and build the education programs around.
Leslie Young, Global.
So to follow up a bit on what Mike was asking, do you think that when this legislation actually goes through that there should be a legal limit for impaired driving of some kind, and what would that be based on at this point in time?
You're asking about whether we think there should be a per se limit. Is that your question? In fact, the answer would be yes, if we had the science to back up the per se limit. That's the challenge right now. The science is not quite there, but the science is very quickly catching up. And that's what the DDC has been asked to consider right now. And it will be obviously instructive to all of us to see what they conclude. There are jurisdictions that have imposed per se limits. And we felt that we looked at the challenges, we looked at what other countries have done, other states have done, but ultimately concluded because of the work the DDC is doing, it would be peremptory of us to suggest a per se limit when they are the forensic scientists, when they are doing a much deeper dive in terms of all the science. And it is developing, almost on a daily basis. You get another report from some part of the world where science, our knowledge is becoming more refined in terms of what a THC level, an appropriate THC level that would speak to impairment, which then permits you with confidence to establish a per se limit, and one that you hope, and prosecutors, because we talk to prosecutors, prosecutors would hope would in fact stand up in court.
Suggest creating a maximum strength, I guess, for edible products, but not necessarily for other products. Can you explain why?
Sorry, maximum strength? You mean
potency per serving?
You're talking about the recommendation to have edible portions with a limited amount of THC per dose. That, again, comes out of experience shared with Colorado, where they did not label and adequately warn the public when they were using edibles what the quantity of THC in the servings that they were taking. And as a result of that, they saw some public health issues emerge. So we recommended that edible products that would be prepared not be appealing to children, be wrapped in very plain packaging, and be adequately labeled in terms of the amount of THC and other cannabinoids that are in there, so that the consumer knows what they're taking, and that is a standardized dose of 5 milligram per dose of THC in an edible quantity is sufficient to provide enough of the drug to have a desired effect, but not such a high dose that's associated with increase in adverse events.
Conroy Le Devoir. Nano?
Yes. fin. Je trouve que vous prenez ça un peu facile, dire que c'est au gouvernement de décider de l'échéancier. Vous écrivez ici qu'il doit veiller à ce que la capacité, et on parle ici de recherche, application de la loi, etc., donc soit développée parmi tous les ordres de gouvernement avant le lancement du régime réglementaire. Donc, est-ce que c'est vraiment possible d'avoir une loi pour le printemps qui se fait, comme vous le dites, plus prudent d'attendre?
Encore le timing de la loi, c'est une question pour le gouvernement. Qu'est-ce que nous pouvons mettre en place avant la déposition de la législation et éventuellement l'approbation de la législation, c'est d'avoir en place la recherche, l'éducation pour préparer le terrain pour l'implémentation de la loi.
Pas réaliste d'avoir ça au printemps, mais Mrs. McLellan, you've been a Minister of Justice. Yep. So what do you think about the fact that young people are still criminalized for something they will do without problem in maybe 6 months, 1 year? As an ex-Minister of Justice, would you recommend that the criminalization we stop criminalizing young people for just smoking a joint?
Well, in fact, that's going forward. Once the new regime is in place and implemented, that's what will happen. Oh, you mean now, Matt? No.
What do you think of it?
You know, as an ex-Minister of Justice, I can probably do no better than the Prime Minister himself at the Toronto Star editorial board, where he made the point very clearly, and one that Mr. Blair has made, and one that I would make here this morning, that until such time as the law changes, the law as it exists should be enforced. That people understand what the law is today. And we are a country that operates under the rule of law. And until the law is changed, and in whatever form it ultimately is changed, we're a task force making recommendations to the government. People should be aware of what the law is. I think people generally are in this area. And that the law should be enforced. I, as a lawyer, let alone the former Minister of Justice, could not advocate that one disobey the existing law.
Bonjour,
peut-être pour le Dr. Ware, ma question. Je vais revenir sur la conduite avec faculté affaiblie. Madame McLellan a dit que c'était pas un nouveau défi, que c'était déjà un problème, mais l'expérience Colorado montre que ces cas-là vont augmenter. Le gouvernement est au courant aussi. Dans votre rapport, vous dites que vous avez entendu beaucoup de préoccupations là-dessus. On dirait que les recommandations, il y en a.
Je dois demander de reposer la question. La clic de caméra m'empêche un peu d'écouter. Si vous pouvez répéter rapidement.
Oui, arrêtez de prendre des photos.
Merci.
Mais il ne faut pas bouger les mains. Quand vous bougez les mains, prenez des photos. Donc, sur la conduite avec faculté affaiblie, Mme McLellan disait que ce n'est pas un nouveau défi. Par contre, l'expérience du Colorado montre que ces cas-là vont augmenter. Le gouvernement est au courant aussi. Et dans votre rapport, il n'y a aucune recommandation claire. Pardonnez-moi de le dire comme ça. Est-ce que, donc, pourquoi est-ce que vous n'avez pas de recommandation claire? Est-ce que c'est vraiment prudent pour le gouvernement de repousser à plus tard cette préoccupation-là juste pour avoir un projet de loi sur la légalisation?
Vous parlez de la conduite de voiture. Oui, d'accord. Oui, c'est clair que la recommandation que nous avons, je pense que c'est assez clair, de ne pas conduire une voiture sous l'influence de cannabis. Ça, c'est clair. Le problème, c'est qu'est-ce qu'on peut démontrer pour déterminer est-ce qu'il y a un niveau dans le sang de THC pour déterminer un niveau d'intoxication, un niveau d'impairment. Ça, c'est très difficile et depuis plusieurs années, l'évidence, la science n'est pas capable de démontrer. Donc, c'est pas responsable pour nous de recommander une limite qui n'est pas supportée par la science, de démontrer ou d'indiquer qu'il y a des autres scientifiques qui sont bien préoccupés de cette question. Et à la fin, de mettre en place ou de donner aux polices, aux autres agents de la loi, d'avoir une meilleure éducation sur la détermination des impairments, sur la roadside detection, avoir plus des officers traînés dans un programme qui s'appelle Drug DRE, the Drug Roadside Evaluation. Donc, il y a certains aspects qu'on peut mettre en place et nous avons recommandé très fort de supporter la capacité d'évaluer le niveau d'impairment sur nos routes.
Recommandé d'ajouter au code criminel une disposition particulière sur la conduite avec faculté affaiblie par la marijuana.
C'est une de nos suggestions, que c'est une des questions pour le Criminal Code. Drug Impaired Driving, c'est encore un problème. Ça commence ça peut-être continuer d'être un problème. Donc, c'est une de nos recommandations de laisser ça pour un acte criminel. Si ça existe avec un outcome sévère.
Dans le code criminel, marijuana? I don't think he
Okay, no, probably not.
Add specifically that marijuana, drug impaired driving under the influence of marijuana is a criminal offense.
Yeah, that may be going more detail than we went into in specifying exactly what was written into the criminal code or not.
Keep in mind, drug-impaired charges are being laid now every day in this country, whether you're impaired by opioids, cannabis, prescription drugs. Those charges are being laid and convictions are being gained in courts all over this country. So that's why I don't want, and Mark and I don't want to leave the impression that, one, drug-impaired driving is a new challenge in Canada, and two, that there are not laws and tests. And Mark has referenced our DRE officers. Yes, we talk about the fact we don't have enough of them and we need better training and we need training, bilingual training and so on. But we don't want to leave here this morning suggesting to you that drug-impaired driving is not being prosecuted in Canadian courts today. It is.
Your colleague dans ma liste, c'est Michel Lamarche de TVA. Michel, prochain.
Une question pour vous, Dr. Ware. Vous parliez un peu plus tôt des préoccupations qui ont été soulevées pendant vos audiences, notamment. Quelles sont les plus grandes préoccupations qu'on vous a rapportées? Légalisation à la réglementation.
Ah oui, les préoccupations. Je pense que juste dans cette discussion de 30 minutes, nous avons parlé de cannabis and driving depuis une bonne 10 minutes. Ça, c'est une préoccupation très, très importante. Et les messages de public education, les messages de support sont très, très clairs.
Je sais que le gouvernement veut agir très rapidement, donc déposer son projet de loi ce printemps. Vous dites que l'échéancier lui appartient, mais sur quel aspect précisément, et il y en a beaucoup, devrait-il être le plus vigilant à votre avis?
Pour commencer, je pense que c'est plus l'éducation. Et ça commence aujourd'hui. Avec le rapport, quand on demande, pour moi, je veux, si tous les Canadiens, aux périodes des fêtes, lire le document, comprendre pourquoi le Canada considère cette approche. Pour l'éducation de la grande public, qu'est-ce que c'est le cannabis? C'est pas une drogue, c'est plusieurs molécules. Les besoins d'éducation pour les parents, pour les enfants, pour les médecins, pour les patients, c'est quelque chose qu'on doit commencer d'éduquer nous-mêmes tantôt. Ça, pour moi, c'est le préoccupant le plus. Supporter la recherche, en fait, c'est aussi quelque chose qu'on doit commencer tout de suite pour avoir le baseline, pour avoir une image où nous commençons avant de déposer la loi, avant de commencer. Il faut qu'on prépare le terrain.
So at this point, we've come to the end of the list. We're 5 minutes over, but I recall your staff were really wanting to make sure that the West Coast got in. So perhaps we could just squeeze one off the phones, and then we'll wrap. So, operator, are you there? Do you have a question, please?
Certainly. Our first question is from David Brown from List Cannabis News. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. The report mentions that you visited several compassion clubs and dispensaries in Canada as well, and I was wondering if you could speak to what you learned there in that experience.
Do you want me to go first? A number of the task force visited the Peace Compassion Club. I believe it is the oldest, or very close to being the oldest compassion club in the country, David. And what we saw there was a holistic approach where cannabis, the use of cannabis in whatever form, is part and parcel of a wellness approach. and we had the opportunity to meet not only with the people who run the Compassion Club for many years, but also patients, members of their board of directors, those who provide advice and information to those who come through the Compassion Club's doors. I think, look, we do have to be honest that presently that which is being done there is illegal, at least part. Let me be clear, some part of that which they are doing. But they, in fact, I now believe, are licensed under the City of Vancouver application process, as some other dispensaries have been licensed in that city. That obviously raises a host of other issues. But I think what we learned there, not putting to one side certain issues of illegality, is that there can be a holistic, wellness-based approach, street-level approach that serves generally highly marginalized populations, and that this is a model, if you want to call it that the report references and suggests that governments should take a look at going forward.
Do you have a supplementary? If not, I'm going to wrap this.
Do you want to add anything to that?
Operator, are you going to put them on for a supplementary?
We have no further questions.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays. Merry Christmas.
Yes, happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. The conference has now ended. Please disconnect your lines at this time, and we thank you for your participation. Merci. La conférence est maintenant terminée. Veuillez s'il vous plaît.
So who's going to speak first?
Wow.
Everybody, you ready? One big wow.
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 I'm pleasantly impressed.
I have some surprises. I was surprised at some of the stuff.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right.
Overall, yeah. I've been reading along in the background too, eh?
Yeah, I've been going through the post of the recommendations, and they do. One of the questions was, were they going to recommend home growing? And they do.
Yep. 4 plants per household.
Yeah. 4 plants per resident.
Yeah, and that's more than that's more than some patients have now, right?
That's right. I mean, it's fantastic.
Well, I can't hear Deb. What are you saying, Deb?
Is it per resident or per residence?
Residents,
I
believe
think it's
it
residents.
Said. Yeah.
Residents.
Per household,
did you notice the 100 centimeter height limit? Anybody see the 100 centimeter height limit?
Yeah, I saw that, Ross.
Yeah, 100 centimeter height limit, plus something about authority. What was that, Wayne?
It says oversight and approval by local authority.
Yeah.
Really?
As far as the height limit goes, I can teach people how to let them grow along the ground, right?
Right, you just peg them down, right?
Yeah, I think...
You don't even need to peg them. They're just like a philodendron, dude. Everywhere there's a node, they will root if you have that next to the
got
dirt.
one thing to say. Sea of green.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently
it's absolutely amazing. I mean, I am completely blown away. Very impressed by what they said overall. A couple of sticking points, but nothing really. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into more details, but wow, very impressive. Apparently they did listen. And their final comments when they were discussing their visit to the Compassion Clubs, very encouraging to hear her final words saying that it is definitely something that the government should be looking at.
And I love the fact in the report they actually make reference to the fact they do not think it should be sold as a co-product to tobacco or alcohol.
Yes, I noticed that too, which is good. Very good.
Yeah.
That's encouraging.
And there's no potency limit either. They don't recommend that. What they do recommend,
only for edible.
What they do recommend on higher potency products is a higher age limit of 25, whereas otherwise they recommend 18.
Higher
And they're saying higher taxes on the higher potency in order to direct people to the lower potency product.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And the maintaining of separate regulations for the medical system, as opposed to rolling it into one, which was fabulous. Absolutely perfect.
That's a big win.
Yeah,
that's a big win for sure.
Yeah. And that way, I guess if a patient can't access it through the medical program, they still have the choice of the retail end in order to get some access to cannabis.
That's right. So if you're having difficulty finding a doctor or getting signed or whatever the case is, you still have another option to continue medicating until you can get those issues taken care of. I mean, it's overall great.
And home production also.
Yeah, and along your home production, you're allowed to grow your own. The one thing I still have a problem with, and that's the one that they came out with a little while ago, and on the last one, and that was saying that you're supposed to now, the amendment to the ACMPR is you're supposed to inform law enforcement and fire department if you have a grow up. I disagree with that still.
Where does it say that?
There's a new amendment that came out on the ACMPR 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
I understood that was just for the LPs and not for patient personal gardens.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure.
One of the recommendations actually has phasing out the designated grower program in the ACMPR though too.
Yeah, I did see that, and that's a little dismaying that they would get rid of designated persons.
You just dropped out, Ross.
There are people who just can't grow their own. And,
Ross, you need to fix your mic again because we can't hear a word you're saying, buddy.
I'll just mute.
And it does say taxation rate for both medical and recreational, quote unquote recreational. Would be the same, which I'm not happy about that either.
No, they shouldn't be taxing the medical. I don't like that either. I've never liked that since day one.
No, medication should not be taxed. It should be tax prohibited. And they also didn't discuss anything about, possibility of applying some sort of a DIN number so that it can get coverage by the health system and that kind of thing.
That wasn't their focus.
No,
it wasn't.
No, that's right. This was about legalization. Exactly.
They are going to. They suggest to evaluate the medical access framework in 5 years' time.
Yeah. I will say I was really impressed at how well they spoke about wow, they knew their shit, right?
They did their job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was quite pleasantly surprised in that aspect.
Yeah, well, they certainly didn't let on that they were listening throughout the task force.
I know, eh? And did you notice? I never heard the word marijuana once. Did you?
No,
I don't think so. No.
They did say in the beginning.
Although I was
say in the beginning that some groups were way more organized than other ones, with facts and not just words of hearsay.
Yeah. I was really impressed by the fact that it was cannabis all the time. It was awesome.
And on the point of production, how it's going to be produced, as we mentioned, they're going to talk. They've recommended 4 plants for each house, but it looks like they want places to be not just. I guess they want people to apply in order to be able to grow. So does that mean that their framework for growing for LPs may be reduced to allow smaller places to start up? Because they did talk about there are large LPs, but there's also small LPs. So could a craft cannabis person still apply in order to be, a regular?
I hope that's what they meant. I hope that's that.
That's exactly what she said. At one point, she said that. Let's be clear here. We understand that. There are a lot of quote unquote illegal suppliers today. And we're hoping that under the new framework, they would be able to move under the regulatory system that we have, that we're establishing. So yeah, exactly. She's talking about the craft market being able to move under the new regulations, that it's not going to be just the big LPs. And at one point, like you have to admit, we said before, there's 1,000 people sitting on a list.
Yeah.
Like, you know, what do I want to say? Expedite that. And there you go. What kind of shortage are you actually going to have?
Well, I guess it depends too on how prepared some of those places would be to get up and operating. A craft cannabis location could be already, you know, like 3/4 the way, got everything already covered. Where some places like Cannabis Housing could be still waiting to put the first shovel into the ground.
Yeah, I have heard of places sitting like just waiting for a final tick in a box and have at her kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There are some like that for sure. Yep.
Anyways, yeah.
Those 4 plants that people are allowed to grow are only an indoor grow.
No. I don't think so.
They just said
it doesn't say indoor or outdoor, and it does reference outdoor gardens in there too.
You just have to protect it from theft and youth access.
It says to protect it from youth. Yeah. Access.
But it doesn't.
You know, like with a fence and an alarm. Like, what difference is that from what we've been doing all along anyway? You know?
Yeah, exactly. We've been doing it all the way along. Now they talked about public education. Are we going to be seeing more of these smoke and pipes that we were seeing under that $13 million conservative campaign, or will we see more science-based and proper education?
Well, certainly the federal government seemed to be tied to the previous conservative government's ideology when it comes to cannabis. With everything they've been spewing about protecting the children and it's going to cause psychosis and.
Well, they have sex ed. Maybe they'll have a pot ed, cannabis education, right in school.
But they do need it in school. It's the proper education, not this dare crap.
Well, she did state, McLellan did say that public education was number 1 on her list for taxation and where some of those dollars should go, along with inspection and enforcement. But they really did stress the public education model throughout the conference.
Yeah.
Well, and that certainly makes sense if it's truly science-based and not based on some of these reports that claim to be coming in under the guise of research and there's no real actual bona fide research being done.
Oh, exactly. Like, I mean, they used the one about, psychosis, and I think that was based on a study that was debunked 12 years ago.
How can they set a limit of 4 plants per residence when people have prescriptions for like 150 grams?
That's on a recreational side. That's got nothing to do with
this is only recreational.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they said that right from the beginning, that maintaining the current regs for medical is what they're recommending.
Okay.
And having a separate system for recreational altogether.
I saw a plant today, not a plant today, but I saw a plant this summer, and I'm not going to say where or anything. But if they had 4 of those,
would have took up a football stadium.
That's it.
Yeah. It would have supplied no problem.
So anybody will be able to grow 4 plants in their residence.
No more than 100 centimeters high.
So there's going to be a lot of backyards smelling like skunk next summer.
I don't like skunk. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't.
Well, it occurred to me this year that it's possible that's why nobody's noticed my plants, because I don't like skunk, I don't like dank, I don't like any of those strains. I like the lighter, fruitier ones, and maybe the smell is just not as pervasive, you know?
I see here they've included in the report what the growing permits are allowed in the U.S. and the states, and they mentioned Washington. There's no personal growing. District of Columbia, you're allowed up to 3 mature plants. You can have 6 plants, but up to 3.
That's new for Washington.
But that's per adult. So
that's new for Washington. They used to have
Washington, D.C.
Yeah, Washington. Yeah, there's the Washington, and then there's the District of Columbia. For the District of Columbia, you can have up to 12 plants per residence, with 6 of those being mature.
So
Oregon, you're allowed 4 plants per residence.
When is
Colorado?
Sorry, Al. When is it that we find out about Canada and what medically speaking?
In that document there that everybody's been reading. Well, some of us have been reading.
Okay.
Yeah.
I lost it.
No, but that's okay. So this document is this document.
I got a link here.
Is this document that we're looking at the framework?
Yeah.
Is that for both rec and medical, or is that just for rec?
No, the document is only for recreational, and their recommendation is that the medical be left the way it is for now, with the review in 5 years.
So we'll continue with the ACMPR, basically.
Right.
These are non-binding recommendations.
Non-binding recommendations. These are the recommendations to the members of parliament from the task force as they were asked to give them. Right.
Yeah, and they could be changed, altered. Who knows? Maybe the government boosts it to 6 plants or reduce it.
They might just throw it the fuck out. Who knows? But that's what the task force that they were given their mandate. That was, and she said that repeatedly. People would ask her about the jurisprudence or what, what kind of whether you're going to have mandatory minimums or whatever. And she said, well, that's not part of our mandate, right? Yeah. Their mandate was to look at, as they were asked to look at different locations and give recommendations. They've given 80 recommendations. It's in this report that they've given to the MPs today, as well as released publicly. And now it's the government's opportunity to go away and come back with something that makes sense based on their recommendations.
Right.
Correct.
For legalization for everybody over 18. And the limit is 18 years old and an ounce of carrying.
Now,
that's just the line in the sand. Each province can set the age to whatever the province wants to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
The recommendation in here is 18 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's still
that's for rec?
And it's 30 grams to carry or be in your possession.
What happened to that? What happened to that 25-year-old, Mark?
Oh, hey, inside information. Here, how good is a leak?
Wow.
It's only as good as whoever the hell actually.
Exactly.
Al,
Al,
there is an age recommendation for high potency, and that's 25 and over.
Okay, but I mean,
they're talking about
all right.
separating potency.
Oh, come on. Do you go in and separate rye from rum and vodka? I mean, it's all in the same fucking store. They all cost about the same price.
They're recommending that it not be in the same store. They don't want it sold in the same store as alcohol or tobacco.
So most likely, from what we're hearing and reading, most likely what it looks like is a separate store for rec availability and pharmacies for prescription. Does that sound about right?
We don't know about pharmacy.
Ooh, can't hear everybody. One person at a time. One person at a time, please. Al?
Okay. As far as your comparison of ages, the older you get, you can have high potency. That would mean that people from 18 to, let's say 19 to 25 would only be allowed to drink beer, and people who are 25 and older could drink beer and hard liquor.
That's fucked up. That's stupid.
That's basically what the recommendation would be.
Oh, it's
good
analogy.
Alcohol.
It's like graduated licensing for driving a car then.
That's right.
Yeah.
As you're able to handle this, then we're going to give you more responsibility as you get older and more experience.
Now you get a graduated. It'll be a graduated party license. Now, does it say anything? Obviously, I'm dyslexic. It's going to take me a while to read this thing. Does it say anything that anybody has noticed about? No, I've forgotten. So never mind.
Can I just take a turn real quick?
Yep.
I have to leave, so I just want to make a couple of points before I go. There's basically, because we have the separation of recreation and medicinal, I think there's, and there was some pretty positive talk about compassion clubs. I don't think compassion clubs are out of the question, for number one. And something else that nobody's pointed out yet was that there was also a point in there about allowing for consumption sites that were cannabis-only consumption sites that weren't mixed with alcohol.
Yes,
so that's kind of encouraging too.
Yes.
I've really enjoyed being on this panel, and it's been a pleasure to kind of listen to it with everybody. And I was expecting much worse than what we got. If I can just throw that out there. And I'm going off to see my specialist now, and celebrate with him. So you guys have a good time, okay? And thanks for having me on.
Bend over and cough, Ross.
Too much snow down here.
Ross. See you later.
See you later, bud.
Have a good one, Ross. Love you, hon.
You know what? I just want to.
Love you guys.
I just want to point. Oh, love you too, big guy. Just want to point out one thing. They are now talking about bringing, or they have brought alcohol and cannabis together down in some states that it's legal now, right? And they left that until now, and it's been, how long has it been legal in Colorado and Washington? 2 years now? Has it been a couple of years now?
Yeah, we're on 2 years now.
Okay, so it's been 2 years since that started, and now they're just starting to talk about allowing alcohol in bars and cafes. And they waited, though. So I suspect they're going to wait. They're going to see what's going to happen, and this is just my own opinion. They're going to wait. They're going to see what's going to happen. They're going to watch all the boob heads make their mistakes. They're going to watch all the people who just want to use cannabis make their mistakes, and then they're going to figure it out. That's why the 5-year thing, right?
Well, they do. Ross made a perfectly good point before he left there, that they do very clearly come out in favor of consumption sites, as in lounges.
Yeah, they do.
Well, they need it. It's something that's needed. I mean, you can walk into any city in Canada right now if you have a heroin problem and shoot up in a safe injection site. Okay.
Right here it says,
and I don't mean to be I don't mean to be crass about it, but that's exactly what it is. They are opening up safe injection sites all over fucking Canada right now. And they've blocked us from having anywhere.
Right.
What's that? What did you say, Deb?
They've changed the terminology. They're now safe consumption sites.
Semantics.
Yeah, and I think they're calling them for the same for us, right?
Well, I mean, it sounds to me like maybe they're going to combine those as well.
I don't look at that way, because they recommend. It says cannabis lounges and tasting rooms.
Oh, well.
With no federal prohibition.
Okay.
Safeguards to prevent the consumption with alcohol, prevent underuse age, and protect health and safety.
Speaking of that word prohibition, I am impressed that they actually said it.
Repeatedly,
Yeah. I mean, they actually kept repeating it, basically saying, we want to end this too. That's what I get out of it.
Yep.
You know? And I don't think in all of the press conferences and listenings to video clips and shit like that I've heard, I have not heard that much prohibition talk from the government ever. I don't think.
I haven't heard that much positive talk from the government ever.
That's what I mean. Wow. Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah, when was the last time we heard the government give us so much detail? Well, a panel recommendations. It's not the government yet.
Well, that's just it. These folks, they're not the government. They were appointed by the government to give their recommendations. Now, we all know that the government chose their appointees hoping for one outcome. I don't think they got what they were looking for.
Yeah.
You make a good point.
Kind of like the Senate committee report in 2002, eh?
Yeah.
Is this
or the Commission report? Yeah, all of it. Was,
let me ask all you guys a question. Really? How when this goes into effect, from what we've heard today, from what we know, what's going on from the past couple of years, where do you think it's going to end up? Do you think that they're going to just go with the recommendations? Do you think they're going to change some things? Do you think that they're going to combine things?
Well, I don't see how they can't go with the majority of the recommendations. I mean, they handpicked these people and said, we want you to find out for us because we don't know. So then to fly in the face of those recommendations would be egg on their own faces. I don't see how they could get away with doing that. But that being said, I do think they're going to use their own government wares to tweak it, so to speak, in their favor a little bit more.
Well, I mean, Mark Ware is the key here, I think, because he's the doctor. Okay? Right. He's the one that's been pushing patients like Lori and helping them use cannabis as a medicine.
I have to say, it seemed really weird hearing his voice again.
So we've got this. I think that even though he's a doctor, he thinks like a doctor. He's going by regulations. He's going by what he's been told he's allowed to do because he's a practitioner. He does support cannabis as a medicine, and that's a damn good thing, especially because of his caliber. Okay?
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, when I just could not get any more medicine, like I was maxed out. They couldn't. My doctor at the time was not able to give me any more narcotics than I was already on, and I was still in agony all the time. And I got referred to him, and the first time I sat in his office, he said, "Have you heard that cannabis can be effective in the treatment of neuropathic pain?" And it took me a while to pick up my jaw. I was like in a doctor's office in the Montreal General Hospital at McGill University Pain Clinic, and the doctor is telling. I was like, really?
I can't.
No,
wait.
I don't think I heard that.
I can't wait until somebody is allowed. Not allowed, but somebody on a regular basis. People are allowed. They go to their doctors, and that's what they hear. Instead of, would you like a perk? Maybe you should think about cannabis, and here's some information. So maybe that's going to happen.
Right. I was shocked, and it was funny the way he approached it. He said, "I went, oh really?" And he said, "Well, it's illegal, but you can apply, to this program, and it's illegal. But if your doctor approves, you can send in this application. But it's illegal. But there are dispensaries around, and it's illegal. But Montreal Compassion Club's about 2 blocks away.
Yeah, well, that's
illegal, but
and I think that a lot of doctors, like when I first went and talked to my doctor about it, I just said, what are your feelings on cannabis? And he didn't even pause. He just reached behind him, grabbed a form. I don't know anything about doses, but these people do, and sent me to the dispensary, which was Calm, which was one of the only ones at the time. And that's where it started for me. Okay. It took me 5 years longer to get him to sign my license because he knew nothing about doses. Well, doctors, it's time to fucking learn.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. And, they even said, that the science is almost non-existent. I mean, and that is truly problematic. But hopefully now with the legalization and the unlocking of being able to do scientific studies, science should come leaps and bounds in a very short time.
Again,
they do recommend more money be put into research.
Yeah. Yeah,
yes.
and I want to remind everybody that this is all about what we're talking about today. Mostly what happened today is recreational. This has nothing to do with medical cannabis in Canada. If you want to know about that, look up information about the AMC. Is it AMCPR?
ACMPR.
Thank you. Or if you got your MMAR, you can continue as you were doing.
That's right.
That's right. No, carry on.
Carry on.
Under the injunction.
Smoke them if you got them.
No changes means no changes.
So I have a question for everybody.
I was encouraged that they wanted more evidence on the benefit side, and a lot more people were requesting that. So
yeah,
I look at that as being a positive for sure too.
Good. Do we want to?
I've talked to some patients that were worried about that. Would it just end up being a legalized market, and would all that research and development just be all thrown off the side?
So when they throw this switch, okay, and it's going to be a big switch, believe me, okay, because even though if you were listening, she said flat out, we will be the first country to legalize cannabis.
Largest.
Now,
one of the largest. Uruguay has, but
you're right.
We're the largest economically based country, a large country.
So back to my original question: when they throw that switch, everybody in Canada over the age of 18 years, if they stick to this announcement here, this thing that they've just released. Anybody over 18 will be able to go out in their backyard and put 4 plants in the ground and let them grow no higher than 100 centimeters.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. Now, there's nothing stated.
30 grams.
There's nothing in the document from what I see that said inside or outside, but I noticed 3 of the 4 places that are low growing in the U.S., they have inside or outside. It doesn't matter. So.
Now, I will. Let's also add that part of the original MMAR program was either you got to grow inside or outside, not both, at the same location.
You could do both, but not at the same time. So you could go inside and
that's what I mean.
Go outside in the summer.
So if you've got
like that.
But now
your numbers
that's
indoor and outdoor were minimized to reflect that as well.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. So, but whether or not it's indoors or outdoors, most likely it's going to be one number for recreational. Right?
I'm guessing you probably have 4 plants all the time, all winter, all summer. What difference does it make?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference after
Well,
all
if
said
they've got
is
a
done.
height restriction on the outdoor, then they can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. 100 centimeters, that's pretty fucking tall. I just got to say.
They also did discuss storefronts as well.
Yes,
that came up in the questions, I believe. And
so it sounds like they're in favor of dispensaries and home gardens and
because
cannabis and
because it says it's up to the provinces to decide about the storefronts, which is they talk about wholesale and retail.
Interestingly enough, when the reporter from BC came through with the final question and listening to Anne McLellan talk about what one could only assume was the British Columbia Compassion Club Society that they had visited, she really hesitated and struggled with using the word illegal.
Yes, she did. Yeah, she did. She said, or I think I've got her quote, most of her quote down here is, honest, she said, what is being done is illegal. And she really stumbled when she said that. But she did go on to say, that some are licensed by the city, which is a whole host of other issues, because there's provincial and city legislation in place that goes against the current federal illegality of having that storefront. And I was so encouraged when she had stated that there can be a street level holistic approach that works.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it. It's almost like you qualified it as. It's almost like you qualified it is illegal. We found that she almost sounded like she was in favor of that as being a more friendly approach to health, shall we say?
Yeah, because
Like,
she kept trying to toe the party line of Trudeau and saying, all of these are illegal right now. We have to enforce the law right now. We're a law-abiding country and all of this and that. But then when she spoke of the illegality of the Compassion Club, you're right, Debbie, she really stumbled.
It was interesting to hear that.
She said she really liked the health and wellness model that the BC Compassion had.
Yeah, that was from David from Lyft, I think.
Oh, David Branch. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lyft. Yeah, they got the only BC question in. Another thing, they that 100 centimeters. We're talking about the 100 centimeters for the plants. That is how tall?
3.28 feet.
That's not bad. I've had plants in the summer that never would have got that tall.
3 feet?
Yeah.
It was a 3.8.
Some of those feminized, I gotta say, they don't do well outdoors.
So we got about 3 feet 4 inches.
So you're gonna have to get yourself some Alaskan.
You're gonna have to tie those babies down. I can just see that.
Yeah.
Pinch the top, branch it out. Yeah, you'll never.
Yeah,
you could get a pound off a plant 3 feet high if you work at it.
Whole bunch of bushes and tie downs.
Yeah. Now there was something else here. Where was it? Oh, past conviction. They talked about one of the questions from the reporter asked about people with prior convictions. Would there be amnesty for them? Would they be?
You know what, Al? I think that question is valid, but will it really matter? Because 4 plants is 4 plants. And if you're going to allow Canada to have 4 plants going in their household, who are they to say who can do it and who can't? They're already monitoring the medical side of things, which is valid.
Yeah.
But if they're going to say Canada is legalized, you can legally grow 4 plants in your home or backyard at any given time, why would they even waste the money on doing a criminal check on everybody who wanted to grow it? Do they do that in the States? Are they doing that in the States?
I know people who have been convicted of cannabis offenses for 2 joints.
Okay,
right?
but are they really going to waste that resource? Are they going to? They're going to waste that resource, though.
But that prevents that person from possibly getting a job at some place. That possibly prevents that person from traveling someplace.
Yeah.
If they've always got these 2 joints over their heads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, after 7 years,
will that impact them from growing recreational even?
No, it shouldn't. No, it should by all means.
No more than it should. No more than it should affect somebody who has a medical need, whether or not they've been charged with a criminal offense or not.
Yeah, but they shouldn't be prevented from getting a job if they've had a prior conviction for,
Oh God, no. I don't think you should be prevented from getting a job in any situation. If you can do the job, do it.
Yeah. Well, that's it should be, but that's
yeah. Chris is here. Let's hear what Chris has to say.
Oh, I'm just listening to you guys. This is I just walked in. I missed most of it, so I've been out running around most of the day.
We're trying to get Marcel in here. He's just getting
trying to wrap my
himself,
brain around it. I see the gummy bears are out of the question, I guess.
Is that what?
I know everybody else doesn't give a shit. I'm really upset about the gummy bears.
Anything that looks like a child's candy.
So you change them from
candy.
So change them from a gummy bear to a frog.
If you made them gummy bears with big penises, are they still childhood candies?
Maybe just make them big penises instead.
If they're anatomically correct teddy gummy bears, are they still childhood?
Then now it's an adult candy. It's the same as the candy that is sold in adult sex shops, right? That's not considered a child candy.
Exactly. Doesn't have to be a cartoon or of anything other than private parts, man.
So now you have to just change the shape of the gummy. It can no longer be a cute little bear.
Make
boobs and balls.
Make your
it's
worms.
the same product, which is it's unbelievable.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, boobs and balls would not qualify as
make your worms into doobies instead. Instead of worms, make them look like doobies. Hello, Marcel.
Pot leaves.
Be like the Popeye cigarettes.
Exactly. That I used to walk around with one stuck in my fucking yap when I was a kid, like 5 years old, 2 years old. They allowed that. You could go in and get the Popeye fucking candy cigarettes and chomp down on them on the street. Nobody would say anything or go, oh, look at what that kid's doing. He's got a smoke in his mouth.
You can get a baby bottle with the word Budweiser written across the front of it, and everybody goes, oh, isn't that cool, adorable?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in hearing what Marcel has to say, even though he's been in a car somewhere.
He just got out of the car and just taken a quick look at what's all in that framework. And I see a lot of suggestions that aren't going to fly.
Did I hear, like, I caught somebody was saying something about the fact that DGs were going to be out or something, or...
Yeah, that's one of the recommendations.
That's one of the recommendations for the look at down the road is, to eliminate
phasing out the designated growers.
It says,
would that also include phasing out, basically renting spots to patients?
Probably.
Doesn't say anything about that.
Doesn't say anything about that.
It's still going to have to fall under the minimum required, like the ACMPR thing, right? It's still going to have to satisfy the charter, no matter what. So
and then don't forget, these are non-binding recommendations.
They're going to be fucking with the medical program less than they are going to be tweaking whatever the hell they released today.
Yeah, because this is just a recommendation. I mean,
exactly.
Herr Justin can just go screw y'all.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or he could expand on them.
They don't really have a lot of time to do anything though, other than get it written and get it out there.
Well, yeah, and then the province has got to deal with it and all that as well.
They really only have 4 months, right?
No, legislation will be out in 4 months.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at another year and a half, I think.
I'd say 2018 before it hits the
but in 4 months, that's all they have to tweak this.
Correct. Yes.
So they don't have a lot of time to really get deep into it.
No.
And some people recommended, I see online, where the government actually had something back in 2013. So there's something like this, just get added to that. A little rework and, see what happens.
And the height restriction, is that on, I heard you guys mention, is that on medical as well as recreational, or is that just the recreational?
No, recreational.
What do you mean height restriction?
100 centimeters. You're allowed to produce. They're recommending 4 plants, 100 centimeters of height, which is 3.2 feet.
With oversight and approval by local authority. That approval is local authority. No, for recreational.
That's for recreational.
Oversight and approval by local authority. So if you're going to put in 4 plants, it sounds like they want you to go tell the cops you put them in, and they're going to want to know that it's being protected from youth and theft.
It's been 10 years since I grew a plant only 3 feet high.
That's for rec. This is for rec, though, and that's what I said. Like, come on, let's be real. It's like a philodendron. If you take any node and put it next to the ground under a tent peg, or what do you call that game that you hit the balls all over with the mallet there?
A wicket? Croquet.
Is there a limit?
Take those croquet things and you just put the branches next to the ground and it'll run just like you wouldn't believe, man.
Is there a limit to height medical?
There you go. I have a 24-foot plant. It's only 3 feet high, but it goes out 24 feet both ways.
They will.
They didn't say anything about width.
You can make it look like a wagon wheel, for frig's sake. Seriously.
You just
top it.
Train it out, and then let your branches run up, and each branch will only be 3 feet high.
Right, and everywhere you get a node and a root, you get a cola. It's awesome. Yeah. I've done it.
I mean, a lot of the strains are pretty versatile that you can train them to do pretty much anything you want.
Let the training begin.
It's just another challenge, like when they took away the OxyContin and made Oxy Neo, they took them like days to figure out how to get around that gelling thing.
I think that there's going to be an awful lot of botany and his horticultural courses starting up in the very near future in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You seen that commercial with the lady standing there trimming the little plants? People will be trimming their little pot plants, getting there.
When I grow my pot in the backyard, I like to use Miracle Grow.
Oh, no, don't ever do that. Please, anybody listening, don't ever do
No, don't do that. I'm kidding.
This ad was brought to you by Monsanto.
But it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Okay, we're going to start seeing stuff like that.
Educating people what not to put on their medicine if they're growing it at home.
Exactly.
That should be part of the public education of
sorry,
the whole thing.
Monsanto, but don't use their products.
Nothing. No, none.
Yeah, no.
They also want They also want to increase law enforcement as well, eh?
Well, of course they do. Got to keep those guys happy too. They're not saying what they're suggesting for a limit for maximum THC.
Yes,
there is
a potency.
You tax it more.
Yeah,
I see that they want to charge more for higher potency, but they mentioned Colorado's maximum of 10 milligrams, but they don't put a suggestion of what Canada's maximum should be.
No,
are we going to compare politicians if they're more effective as opposed to less effective?
What they're going to do is that for higher potency products, they be limited to people 25 and older.
Making
and they would be taxed more than low potency products.
Yeah.
So it'd be like saying if you're between 18 and 25, you're only allowed to drink beer. At over 25, you can drink beer and hard liquor.
But they're both available at the same place.
Yeah.
Yes, they probably would be.
But the higher price deters people away from that to make them buy the lower price stuff.
Right.
People just buy extra weaker stuff. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. You're paying less for less.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what you want it for. Like if I want to get rid of the pain in the muscle spasms, I'm going to buy the cheaper shit because it works better anyway.
Can I ask a silly question? Change the subject just a little bit. Has anything been said about concentrates and things like that and extracts?
Well, actually, it says right here, making THC oil can be a dangerous process and should only be done in controlled facilities and not in residential areas. Having users create their own edibles with cannabis oil could lead to uneven distribution of THC in the product. I'll teach you how to do it, resulting in a potential for overdose.
But using actual plant matter in your recipes, does
the internet can teach you how to do it.
Yeah.
Oh God!
I guess it'd be like we can make you can make beer and wine at home, but you can't make people can't make hard liquor.
So they're going to they'll allow it for they'll allow it for recreational, but they're giving us a hard time about it for medical. The extracts and stuff.
No, they're just going to give you a hard time of making your own extracts.
How it's done. Yeah. How it's done.
And the more people that blow up
it says you can't make any extracts that are dangerous. And by dangerous, it means explosive.
Right.
Yeah. Well, even glycerin's fucking explosive, for God's sakes.
There you go. Provide regulatory oversight for cannabis concentrates to minimize the risks associated with illicit production.
Right. So it's more about just making sure that whoever's providing it is registered to do so and having proper packaging and proper THC and CBD levels advertised. It's not about limiting it, but making sure that people know what the hell they're getting.
Yeah, but
they referred to the... Sorry?
What I'm wondering about is what's going to happen to the rosin and shatter makers. Because I don't think they're going to be allowed.
Well, they'll have to go commercial under regulations.
Well, if there's no danger in making rosin, what the hell's the problem with that?
That's true. Yeah, there is no danger with rosin.
Burn yourself, but you can burn yourself on your stove too.
I'm imagining it's going to be the same as any kind of regulatory system. If you go and you buy it in a storefront or a shop or something like that, it has to go through some sort of a regulatory system and standards and procedures and shit like that. Like you know, if you go and you buy carrots at the store, that company has actually had an inspection at some fucking point. Just surprise. But if you go to the farmer's market or buy it from your neighbor, they haven't.
But if you want to go,
it's a matter of consumer knowledge and like, yeah, I don't see anything that's hugely unwarranted in any of this yet, really.
And it's only the dangerous extracts that they're stopping, and they mean for explosives. Right. So if you're using CO2 or if you're using rosin, they're not banning it for how dangerous the product is. It's for the how dangerous it is to make it, right?
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, CO2 and rosin and bubble hash should all, and hash should all be allowed still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
I think it's awesome that they've made a point of saying that it shouldn't be sold in correlation with alcohol and or tobacco.
They mentioned that quite a few times for the report.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
Which is nice to see. That gets out of that liquor store mentality that some people seem to have. But that still comes down to the province to decide in the end.
Oh, here they do. One of the things that were submitted was a standard serving size of THC.
Yeah, I see that.
Like I can understand that. Like I had somebody tell me, "Oh, I ate a $40 brownie once," and I just kind of looked at them and went, "What?" "Oh, I was told to just eat a tenth of it," and I'm thinking, "Who the fuck sells somebody a brownie who can only eat a tenth of it?"
Yeah, especially an hour later when the munchies kick in, and what do you reach for? The rest of the fucking brownie.
Well, they did that with chocolate bars. I mean, each square was a dose. That's insane. I've never eaten one squirt of a chocolate bar in my whole life.
That's why.
There you go.
All of the edibles I make are single serving.
Right.
Well, this is it. Yes.
Eat the whole goddamn thing.
Some of the quote unquote limitations are within reason as far as I'm concerned. When somebody comes and tells me something like that, I was like, a tenth of a brownie? What? How the fuck do you even do that?
But we have these ones out there that are also advertising that, there's 125 milligrams of THC in their edible.
Oh, and when there really isn't, yeah.
No, when 10 milligrams is enough to set you on your ass for a long time, 120 is definitely going to set you on your ass and knock you out.
I just watched a movie yesterday called Rolling Papers about the cannabis, and they had a thing where they dealt with that in Colorado, where the packaging was completely different than the product. It said 10 milligrams, but they were getting like 0.3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's
people don't know how to do math.
Well, it's not. They don't know how. They're just screwing people. That's all.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, seriously, a can of pop with 125 milligrams of THC. And
okay, now did it say per can or per serving? Because I have an issue with that. Depending on how the labeling is, they may not be as, what do I want to say, misleading as some people believe.
Go read go grab a Moda gummy bear.
One can is one serving.
When they say milligram, it doesn't say how potent that milligram is. It's just there's been 125 milligrams of cannabis product used in the pop. That's not potency. That's volume.
They don't say
125 milligrams.
The problem is they don't say 125 milligrams of cannabis. They say it's 125 milligrams of THC.
Which is where I have my issue, because THC is a standard of about 20%.
Yeah, well, if it's
so 20 would
oil,
be the equivalent of about a gram, right?
But I mean,
20. Well, okay, come on. I'm outdoors. I don't brag about my shit.
Okay, so here's the math, Lori. If you make a gram of oil, and you test that oil and it's 30% THC, that means there's 300 milligrams of THC in that.
Right.
Which would give you 10 doses per gram at maximum dose.
Right.
Right? No, 30. 30 doses per gram, maximum dose of 10 milligrams.
Right, exactly. 30, yeah. Because, yeah, okay, right.
So you've got 100. So in your gram of oil, you've got 300 milligrams of THC. Somebody gives you a can of pop and says that there's 125 milligrams of THC, then you've just consumed a half a gram of oil.
Right.
Not a chance. It's not going to happen.
No way.
I've had that pop. It's not the same as a half a gram of oil at all.
No, it's not.
No, I get your, yeah, no, that if they're saying THC, then that's not, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying now.
But the problem
That's
is,
what was confusing me, is like I was not being able to correlate my medicine with what the fuck other people were selling, right?
because what other people are doing is just marketing numbers. Either they know or they don't know how to do the math, and they're just giving these high numbers to get people to buy this shit.
Right.
Like, there's no way on earth I'm going to eat a gummy bear that has 40 milligrams of THC. Just not going to happen.
Right.
The same as I'm never going to make one.
1 milligram is 0.001 grams.
Yes.
Right.
So it's way less than half a gram, significantly.
Oh yeah.
So there's 0.001 of a gram in 1 milligram, right?
Yes.
So 125, there's 0.125. So it's a tenth of a gram.
Tenth of a gram. Go ahead, eat a tenth of a gram.
Well, that's what you put on a joint, I would think.
Different.
Tenth of a gram
There's a
of what,
big difference
oil?
between smoking oil and eating oil.
Yeah.
One's going to last you 30 minutes and make you really high. The other one's going to make you really
tenth of a gram is a lot.
Yeah.
I ate 300 milliliters of oil this morning.
You ate how many?
Eating and smoking are two completely different ball games as far as effects go, quantity that is required, and individuals, I mean, react differently to them. Because many people can't do edibles.
Well, that's it. I can go for I don't know how long with never eating oil or concentrate, and then all of a sudden, like the day I went to Ottawa, I had 2 capsules, and each one of them had the equivalent of a third of a gram of oil in it, and I was still functional. I didn't nap. I was fine.
Right.
It's just, I guess, because my saturation level is at such a nice even keel that it doesn't.
You've built up tolerance.
You know, I would never expect anybody else to come even close to that, though.
I mean, I've built up tolerance too, especially for edibles, but I can throw my tolerance right to crap by smoking shatter.
Oh, yeah. I've only tried that a couple of times. I'm not a fan. It's kind of like a hot knife to me.
Did you say crack or shatter?
Shatter.
Shatter.
I don't know.
I've been dabbing
My shatter crack's pretty good.
Could you
I've
even
been dabbing the whole program.
Can you even dab shatter or dab crack?
Actually, I have.
I don't know.
Some Mr. Kush VIP Green Crack Kush Shatter.
I don't know if I'd want somebody to dab my crack.
Wow.
I don't like it when they. I don't like it when they use those names like crack and stuff for pot. I really
green crack.
When I did have green crack, it was very clear to me why it got that name. I was sleeping about 3 hours a night.
Yeah, I still don't like hearing. But I don't know. I just think that the association with drugs like crack into the cannabis world just proliferates the stigma. It's just not a good deal.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't think it's good either.
Yeah.
It's actually, I believe, called Green Passion originally. People should, it'd be nice if they'd start calling it that again.
Let's go look up green crack.
They just changed the name of it to sell more. Sounds like crack. People will buy it. I want some green cocaine. Is there any strains named cocaine?
I've never heard of one.
No. Not that I know of.
Get on that.
I was just thinking that actually.
Yeah. I think that the next they haven't put any dates on anything yet. When this is going to happen, it could happen this year, it could happen next year, it could happen 10 years from now. We don't know.
No,
but it's going to happen.
That's in the
Starting of
hands of the Liberal
2017.
government now.
Something is going to happen.
Yeah.
That's all we know is
something's going to happen. And you know what? If they stick to even most of this recommendation, it's not so bad. As far as rec
That's
goes.
right. Yeah, as far as recreational goes, I mean, the task force, they've done their job.
They've done their job.
Well, they did listen to everybody and took it all into consideration. I am pleasantly surprised by this. I'm head over heels, really. Now it's just whether or not the government follows up and takes the task force recommendations and runs with them and turns this into law. Like we're saying, it's going to happen in the spring, they say, but legalization itself won't happen until at least 2017.
Yeah, you're breaking up now, Kim.
Yeah, I'm going to say goodbye.
Okay.
Thanks for having me, guys. I
Thank you for
enjoyed it.
being
It was
here.
fantastic, but my day has to continue. I got stuff to do.
You go right
I
ahead.
love being here. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it, and I will be talking to you all on cyberspace.
See ya.
See you soon.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
So we've got this number to shoot for recreational, okay, which is 4 plants. Do you how close to that, in your own opinion? This is the submissions and the opinion time. In your opinion,
Even Harvard's mandatory minimums let you grow 6 without any trouble, really.
Okay.
Mandatory minimums, right? So
now
you still could be charged for
but most
production.
people were just getting fines and whatnot.
The judges are throwing that shit out. But if you've already got a mandatory minimum of 6, okay, and now they're saying 4, do you think they'll go for split the difference, go for 5?
I would hope they would.
Because I got to tell you, people need to realize something. One sec.
I mean,
people
4 per adult, I'd be happier than 4
of
per
course, but people need to realize something, okay? If you get good at growing, 4 plants can give you enough for the time you need to get rid of, not get rid of, but use all that product, because this is a keep going thing. It's not you got 4 plants and that's it. This is once those plants do 4 more, once those plants. So you're going to have a steady supply of your own personal cannabis. And that's
Grow inside in the winter.
And that's going to make a big difference to a lot of people who cannot do it any other way. They can't afford their own medicines. Okay, me personally, I don't think I could afford to sustain if I got a 5-gram limit. I honestly don't think I could afford to sustain with power, chemicals and all that equipment a 50 plant grow for my own personal use year round. I couldn't do it. 4 plants? Oh yeah, no problem. I think for most people it will also remove that stress of, I don't feel well, I want to use medical cannabis, but fuck it, I'm just going to grow 4 plants.
Yeah.
In reality, if you had those autoflowers and you had the right selection
point
of strains,
exactly,
you could
Ron.
have 2 crops every summer.
Exactly. And then you got 2 more crops in the winter, or even 3 in the winter in your home.
What about the insurance companies when it comes to homegrown?
We're going to have to get Scott back on, Marcel, or Ross, or somebody. Somebody.
That's a very good idea, yep. And if everybody's allowed to do it, it's going to be a lot more mainstream, a lot more normalized, and a lot more companies are going to have to start accommodating.
It's going to be no different than sitting in your backyard and having a beer.
Does a house with a garden in it become more valuable than a house without a garden?
And does a house, will it matter if your next door neighbor has children, minors?
It doesn't under the medical program.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does under the medical.
But-
as long as you're trying to detour access to it.
But the park, but what about the whole park thing? There, you have to be X amount of feet from a park or a school or a church or any public area.
That's for growing outside, correct. For growing outside, correct. Yeah.
That's going to be a factor. I mean, it's got to be a factor. I live next door in between two family houses. If I want to go out of my backyard and grow weed and it's against the law for somebody to do it medically,
It has
why
nothing to do
should
with
it?
family house. It's
maybe
like
you put up
a child
4 foot
care
solid
or a
vinyl
school
fences.
or
Yeah,
community
you can't
center.
do correct. As Lori says, you can't grow outside with a medical license where youth frequent, such as arenas and community centers.
But that's going to have to change if everybody can grow 4 plants
I
on
mean,
their
I
property.
have kids myself, so I'm just going to put up a chain link fence around it and call it a day.
Well, you know what?
Exactly.
There's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
shops like BMA Hydroponics and other hydro stores and hardware stores and lighting companies that are going to get a big boom in business over the next little while in Canada. I mean, that's just a given. The revenue that is going to be generated from this, not only from taxes, like are they going to make every person have a license if you want to grow at home, whether or not it's medical or not? Are you going to have a certificate that says, I've told the government that I'm growing here and I'm allowed? They do that in California, do they not? Or
In the report, it just seems to be you have to let your local authorities know.
Okay.
Yeah, police and fire, I think.
So there's going to be a lot of people walking into the police department going, hey, man, I'm a pot grower. It's just there. Here's my address. See you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as that doesn't give them permission to enter my property at any time without notice, and I don't care.
We don't have to tell them when we have tomatoes in our house, do
I
we?
was just going to say, do I have to tell them when I'm growing
Yeah, that's
beer in my basement? If I'm brewing
No.
beer in my basement or making some wine in my closet, do I have to tell them? If they're going to do it, if they're going to do it like alcohol, which they say they're going to do, the same kind of thing, the same structure, right? Then they need to have the same kind of laws, right?
Yeah.
What's the law in Canada now? Is it Canada wide? It's 19 years old to drink, or is it by province?
No, by province, 18, 19, depending on the province.
Because it's 19 here in Ontario, right?
Yes,
19 Atlantic Canada.
And what is it out west? Does anybody know? We don't have anybody from out west.
I
here.
know 18 in BC.
18 in Alberta, or it was.
So yeah, 19 in BC, 18 in Alberta, and I think it's 18 in Winnipeg or
So-
Manitoba.
Basically, what
19 here, yeah.
basically what the government has done today is said that regardless of these recommendations, they recommend that each province handle each province, right?
Yes.
So that's going to create the same kind of issues with age and accessibility and stuff like that, depending on where you are in Canada, right?
I've heard that Quebec wants to remain status quo, keep it illegal even after legalization.
And I could see Quebec doing that because they like to be a holdout.
Yeah, well, you know.
But I did notice that they did say that wherever
They
it's
want to put a moat around
located,
themselves anyway.
storefront sales, it can't cohabitate with alcohol or tobacco.
Yeah,
So
it's
that
LC
takes-
dispensaries, head shops.
That
Yep.
takes
Private
selling it at the LCBO kind of thing out of the question then.
Nope. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's mentioned several times. I was glad to see that they recommend that doesn't not be sold in the same spot as alcohol.
Yeah.
But when it comes back to it, the individual provinces, that's going to be a provincial decision, is it not?
Correct. Yeah.
And then is
Everything
it
really is.
is it possible that the provinces are going to allow it to stay within the city permit? Whatever the cities decide. Is it possible that it'll go that far? Do you think?
They said municipalities will have a lot of comments and be able to pressure the provincial government
Because
as
they're
to-
already
as to what
doing
they
that in
want.
Vancouver, right? Like the island is different than the city, right?
Right, and these are recommendations; they're not rules. No,
I know.
Right?
I know.
Correct. But we can still pressure our MPPs to pressure Cal Wynn on what to do. We still have time to
Yep. To
push it
influence
through.
policy, exactly.
Now we
One thing I will say too that they one thing that stuck out to me when I was reading through is regarding illicit, quote unquote, illicit production and distribution. They have an exclusion for what they call, quote unquote, social sharing. So things like, somebody bringing something and sharing with their friends is not going to be included in distribution or trafficking kind of a thing anymore.
Oh, okay.
So
that's what their recommendation is.
So if there's 3 or more people smoking a joint, it's not organized crime anymore?
No, I guess not. It says create exclusions for quote-unquote social sharing.
Good.
So that when you pass your buddy the joint for a toke, you're not trafficking.
Right.
Yeah. Which is a silly law.
It is.
Or I guess showing up at a party with a box of brownies wouldn't be included in trafficking either, right?
No, I call that being a conscientious guest. Because if I go to a party, I'll bring a tray of brownies.
Well, it's not illegal to walk into a party with a case of beer. Why should it be illegal to walk in with a box of doobies?
Yeah, I think they've made it very equal that way, and in the way that they've looked at it.
I do like the clarification they have in there on overdose, though, where they state that cannabis overdose, while it won't cause death, can be rather uncomfortable.
Sure it can. I've gone through it. I ended up in the hospital.
Pardon me?
I went through it.
Is that what people call greening out?
Yeah, well, I mean, were you talking to me, Marcel, or Al? When you said part, okay. Well, when I got my first round of oil, actual oil in the caps, with the coconut oil and RSO mixed up, I was taking a cap a day in the morning and then a cap at night to sleep. And I don't know if you would call it greening out, but I got to the point where my heart felt like it was going to jump out of my fucking chest. And
I've heard that a lot with people who use the coconut oil capsules. I've heard that you just need to drink a crap load of water to counteract it.
And that's what I found out. I dehydrated myself.
Yeah.
Basically. But I got to say also, when you have mental health issues like I do, I have full-blown ADHD, and some strains will knock me into a perfect tizzy. And I've had a few instances where I've had to say, whoa, I mean, it's a rush of cannabinoids hitting your body, and your body goes, what the fuck?
I've heard, I actually heard Dr. Janet Sweeney from the Phoenix Tears Foundation make reference to using sativas in concentrates for ingestion. And she said that she suspected it would have that kind of effect, actually. And it maybe speaks to the reason why I mix 4 or 5 different kinds together every time I do an extract. Because it's like a broader spectrum, I guess.
For me personally, and the only reason I'm mentioning it, Lori, is because as we have been discussing for years, cannabis is patient-specific, person-specific. Doesn't matter what strain you're using. This strain will work for this person, may not work for you. Where one person is sitting there going, having a yeah man moment, you may be going, what the fuck is going on, man? Literally, quite literally. So, I mean, it's nice to see that they're going to start talking about that stuff, because
I'm curious about this impaired driving, if they're going to allow higher limits for medical users.
Is that going to matter? Are they going to say no, you can't use it and then drive? Are they going to go that far?
I was very impressed by what she said about that, actually.
Explain to me.
She made very, very, very clear distinction between THC presence in the blood and intoxication level.
Yeah. Now, most medications, they say don't use equipment or machinery until you know how the medication affects you. So I would hope it's the same thing with cannabis.
Bingo. Yeah.
Okay, but in saying that, Wayne, when you go to the doctor and you've got a problem with headache and they give you whatever they give you to use it, that's pretty heavy duty shit. and it says,
It is, yep.
you know, monitor yourself. Don't exactly what you just said, but who's putting, like, you know, if I'm driving down the road and I've just had a doobie and I'm feeling good and I'm driving down the road not hurting and I get pulled over by a ride, okay, and they say, we smell cannabis on you, sir. Have you been smoking anything? You're going to have to take this new breathalyzer test, blah, 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 blah. Who's to fucking say I'm impaired?
That's right.
Okay. I'm a big boy. I can have a Ryan Coke and sit there and have a good evening. I can.
And there's lots of people who can drink cases of beer and function way better than they could if they didn't.
I can drink lots of liquor. I have 2 beers and I'm drunk.
My dad drinks a case of beer a day and he functions and drives and does everything.
Talking about cases of beer and stuff. On one of my posts on Facebook, Russell Barth has asked a question to deal with the personal possession, where we'll be allowed to carry 30 grams with us, but yet you can go to the liquor store or the beer store
You can buy as much as you want.
Buy whatever you want and be able to carry that with no issue at all.
I mean, I'm going Christmas shopping for booze after I leave Alice here. So if I wanted to go Christmas shopping for weed, could I only buy it 30 grams at a time?
And you can, but now, yeah, that's weird, man. That's not.
Because your possession is limited to 30 grams. Yeah.
It looks like that's a limit on how much can be sold at a time too. Yeah.
Now, have they made any, like, we've already talked about it, I'm sure, but I'm following through on a question. Have they said anything about where cannabis will be available for recreational users?
Through storefronts.
It sounds like they want storefronts. Yeah.
So they're going to.
And yet again, that comes down to the provinces. But yeah.
So basically, what they've said, what sounds like what they've recommended, is to go ahead and do what they've been closing down all summer.
But they recommended not alongside of alcohol or tobacco.
Okay, but that's I mean, like, for instance, cannabis culture is not beside. It's beside a bar, but it's not beside a place that you can go in and buy a bottle and then walk out. Is that going to be legal, or is that going to be illegal in that state? Specifically, I'm talking about Mark's Cannabis Culture. Are stores like that going to be legal? They're saying right now they're not.
Looks like it.
But they're not. They're shutting them down, and then they open up again, and then they shut them down, and then they. How many millions of dollars have been wasted if they're going to turn around and then just allow it?
She makes it very clear the law today does not allow that. Once the law allows it, that's going to be the model.
So let's waste a few more $1 million while people in Canada are fucking starving.
What those places may require to do, Al, is right now you can't just set up shop and sell alcohol. You have to apply for a license to do that.
Yeah. You even need a permit to have
for a license, or municipally for a license in order to be able to sell.
I don't think you'd apply municipally like you would with lottery or cigarettes or anything else.
If you're having an event, you have to go and get a permit to sell or have alcohol on the premises. To sell specifically. Yeah. Does that mean does that mean if I have an event, I'm going to be able to go and apply for a permit to sell cannabis at this event? Because that's going to make it very interesting for a lot of craft cannabis people and these flea markets that are coming up.
Yeah.
You know?
And chances are at these events, to get the permits, they'll want you to have EMS on site and have this and that on site.
You may have to have some, and you may have to have some Smart Serve type program behind you as well.
And okay.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Something like an equivalent to Smart Serve.
So where they have said in medical, speaking medical, where they have said storefronts are illegal. We're not doing that. You're not allowed to do that. You can only get it. But they haven't mentioned anything about online stuff. Do you think that just knowing more now that we know, that they may focus on online, or are they going to go back into the store model like they're suggesting?
I think if
It says-
recreational starts selling to the store, I think the LPs are really going to lobby the government hard to start letting them sell their products through dispensaries.
Well, they've already.
Yeah.
I mean, Tweed has already got
Yeah.
stores opened up all over the province already.
Right.
Yeah, but they aren't selling directly.
But the dispensaries are
They're-
only going to
they're
be selling
educational
to licensed
centers.
producer cannabis.
Order mail.
What was that, Marcel?
The dispensaries are only going to be selling licensed producer cannabis.
That's which could be even a craft cannabis person if they go through and do the application process in order
According
to
to
produce
the
it.
recommendations.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like we have craft beer location 2 miles out of town.
Yeah,
And we, even with the medications and stuff, we have no name and brand names. So
yeah.
And they seem to encourage when she was talking. She said something about hoping that it would allow the people who are illegal now to become legal.
yeah,
Right.
She said she encouraged it.
Stressing the
Migrate
fact
into
that
the new
LPs
framework.
stressing the fact that LPs could be small. They didn't all have to be large.
I was just going to say that, Deb, because, I mean, up till now, all we've heard about LPs is you need $1 million just to start, just for the fucking paperwork.
5.
Okay, so you need. I'm just saying, throwing out a number, but you need $1 million plus.
Yeah.
Okay, to even get the paperwork going. Is that going to change? Because, like you said, Al, there's a lot of micro breweries out there that all you have to do is go and get your business license and license to sell and make alcohol.
Yeah, all come down to the province, but I would like to see them reduce the requirements in order to allow that market to open up. Like I talked to a well-known Canadian advocate during one of our programs on the Pace Radio show, and he runs dispensaries, and he said that he'd have no problem buying from a licensed producer to supply his dispensary if they open it up to allow the people he supplies him to become legal.
Yeah.
Right. And that's basically what I see is a possibility that could be allowed to happen.
And the other thing I haven't heard anything about either is the production side. Are they going to allow recreational to grow outside? Can farmers just fill fields full of this stuff?
For plants.
Well, that's for recreational personal use. What about recreational commercial use?
I never even thought about that, Wayne.
Like why not fill farmers' fields? Forget all these regulations where everything costs millions of dollars to build these indoor facilities. I mean, why not fill these farmers' fields and just get it going?
Well, that would be the right way to do it, but that won't happen.
Why not?
Well, we see it with hemp.
Control it now.
But we do see it with hemp.
They control farmers in every aspect now. Why can't they control them in the hemp market, in the cannabis market?
Well, because first thing they'd need is 12-foot chain link fences around their property with razor wire on top.
Why?
security
If
cameras,
everybody's doing
because
it.
it's still a controlled substance.
If every second farmer's doing it, then it's like corn. People steal a little bit of corn, but they don't steal fields of corn.
You know what?
Who gives a crap? Just load these fields up, so there's so much everywhere, nobody's going to be worried about it.
As it stands now, if I drove down the street and I saw a big field of cannabis, I'd get out of my car and I'd want to run through it. But in 5 years from now, it's going to be commonplace to see fields of cannabis growing in Canada and the U.S. and all over the world. By that point, probably, it's going to be second nature, and it's going to be no different than going, hey, there's a field of pot. Oh, look, there's a field of grain right beside it, and then look, there's corn. It's going to be no different, and I think that the stigma might actually just kind of filter away. There's always going to be haters. There's people that don't like alcohol. There's people that don't like tobacco. But
growing it outdoors in farmers' field completely goes against his entire agenda, which was to keep it out of the hands of children.
Yep.
Because guess who steals corn in the cornfield?
Who do you think's going to be stealing it out of
environmental stewardship? By implementing measures such as permitting outdoor production with appropriate security measures.
Okay, but who do you think are going to be the ones that are stealing plants from people's backyards once that takes hold? Exactly.
The same ones that steal them now.
Exactly. Yeah. So what's the diff?
Right.
Anyways, guys, it's 1:00.
Exactly.
We have been sitting here since 10. 9:30 actually, some of us. I do want to give everybody on the panel a final word. I haven't heard much from Chris, and I'd like to know what Chris is thinking, and Chris can bow out because I know he has to get going.
Oh, I'm somewhat pleasantly surprised. Like I said, I mean, the whole mantra of "what about the kids? Won't somebody please God think about the children?" is really getting tired. The fact that it's going to cost me my gummy bears. If I put big penises on them, I could call them gummy bears.
Well, if kids are stealing pot, I think they have to dry it somewhere, so the parents should be catching them before that.
You know what, Chris? You could add, if you added a little squirt, like the squirt gums.
Was that freshen up? Was that gum freshen up?
There you go. Yeah, freshen up. There you go. So you could have gummy bears with a little strawberry squish.
That's just wrong.
Very wrong.
Well, you asked for my input, and that's all I had to contribute to it.
Okay, Debbie, I know that you have to get going. You got a lot going on, Deb, and it's your birthday.
Happy birthday, Deb.
Yes, happy birthday, Deb.
Happy birthday.
So
Happy birthday, Deb.
I want to hear what you have to say, Deb, and then you can saunter on your way for your day.
Thanks, Al. I must say, like everyone else, I find I'm pleasantly surprised with their encouragement to develop safe inhalation sites. I think that's a wonderful progressive step forward. For plants is a heck of a good start, and I think leaving the medical program as is for now is a wise move as well.
I agree.
I agree too.
I agree.
I'm just concerned. I guess my biggest concern would be how much propaganda is in the educational component that they're speaking of, because we all know that it's out there and it's rampant.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think that, I mean, this is going to happen? When? We don't know yet. But this is going to happen. Canada will be legal for cannabis. But do you think that they're going to put all this money into making it easy enough for everybody to be happy to get it for whatever reason, okay, and then turn around and do propaganda commercials and dumping on it and stuff like that? I mean, they don't really do that with alcohol or smoking. They don't allow commercials anymore for smoking, I don't believe, do they?
No.
So
you just see an increase of those "you are way too high" commercials at Much Music plays.
Yeah.
Do you think that Much Music? Do you think that Much Music is going to have? Don't go out back and smoke a doobie before you go into math class commercials, or do you think that they're going to have, "Hey, come on down and get your strains here"? Like,
hopefully they're going to have neither.
In hearing
something's going to happen.
Speak, I certainly can't see this new framework as being one that would allow advertising.
Yeah. I did see a section on advertising in there, but I didn't
running
look
down
at
the
it.
road and stuff. Beer signs, Smirnoff signs on the highways everywhere. So
why
not?
shouldn't when Tweed has a delivery from one of their facilities to one of their stores in the future, is it not okay for them to drive down the street in a big old Tweed truck? I mean, it should be. Brewers Retail does it.
They seem to be going along the line as the recommendations are the same as the Tobacco Act.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. And it says about amongst the no advertising, it clearly says or sponsorship.
But you see, they tried that with alcohol, and they took the alcohol out of it and just made it cigarettes, right? They tried to do that with alcohol. They said no more cigarette or alcohol commercials anywhere on public mediums, and then they changed their minds. They allowed it with alcohol again.
Right, exactly. Sporting events can be sponsored by alcohol, but not the tobacco companies, right?
Okay. Yeah, well, that's exactly because the Des Maurier Downtown Jazz Festival in Toronto, it used to be brought to you by Des Maurier cigarettes.
Yeah, Des Maurier Open.
Right.
Yeah.
Benson and Hedges used to.
Yeah, no, they make it very clear that they don't.
They used to do the Festival of Lights
They make
down
it very
in Toronto.
clear
yeah.
they recommend no sponsorship. Yeah.
And they also recommend plain packagings for the product. It only include the company name, strain, price, and amount of THC and CBDs.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
With appropriate
Plain white
warnings.
packaging. Yeah.
With appropriate. So are we going to have pictures on our packs of cannabis cigarettes of people slumped over with a big smile on their face instead of those big greasy lungs?
People standing up out of the wheelchairs. I like that one.
Yeah, he's like, you see a guy with his with
Pointing to the ground.
a picture of a guy with a pizza in his hand and a doobie in the other, going, ha, 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 that'll be on my pack. You know?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Picture of an empty unemployment office because everybody's growing weed.
Wayne, why don't you give us your final thoughts, bud?
Who, me?
Yep.
Wayne? Yeah.
Your name
I'm
is
very
Wayne.
impressed with everything that's been recommended, but I won't get too excited until it actually happens, and I'm just going to kind of play it step by step right now. If they go through with all this, that would be awesome, but I don't see it happening this way.
Really? You don't? What kind of things do you think they'll change?
Well, I mean, what Trudeau does is one thing. It's the provinces I'm concerned about. What Trudeau says is just guidelines for the provinces to work with him, right? It's just a framework. I'm worried what province to province is going to happen and which province I'm going to move to when it all happens.
Which is the most difficult province right now? Is it?
Well, Kathleen Wynne scares me with everything she says, but yeah, Quebec's definitely in the worst position as far as I can see.
Really? And then Ontario.
Yeah.
I wonder about Saskatchewan.
And places like Alberta, I mean, they're very, very, very conservative, so I'm not sure what's going to happen there either.
Yeah. Well,
I know that the Alberta people have gone south to find out what's going on. Yeah. They've been doing some investigation. Same with some of the land provinces. They've been doing some investigation.
Everybody in the States that doesn't like Trump is going to move to Canada, and everybody in Canada that doesn't like the grow options are going to move down to the States. Mexico, here I come. They're talking about Alberta, that. They're talking about, speaking of Mexico, they're talking about that coming up very soon as well. Right?
Yeah, there was a post about it. I know I shared it about a medical program, but I've got a friend that lives down there, and there is already some legality about half an ounce or something.
My wife was just came back from Mexico last week, and she said they seem extremely liberal about it. It's not hard to find. It's everywhere. It's open. You know, every corner.
Do they have
store
stores?
Bongs in it.
So they have stores where you can go in and get pot, or do you have to go to
not the pot, but there's people outside of the store selling it. Yeah.
Okay, so they don't have storefronts. They don't have. Are they?
No, you go in the store, you buy your pipe, you ask them where you can get stuff. They point to the guy standing in front of the window, and you go buy it from him.
Now, yeah. Yeah. Go down 4 blocks. Don't go down 5 blocks, because if you do, you're dead.
Yeah.
Well, Jamaica's making their way that way as well.
Yeah.
Where you'll be able to do storefront. So.
Well,
Jamaica's working on it.
It's going to be a very interesting next couple of years. Marcel.
Yes.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking I want to read the whole thing over again, then contact them. I got lots of questions.
So we're going to be having these conversations for the next year at least, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to
find until legislation.
You got to get your mayors, your MPs, and MPPs, and everybody involved, right? So
Can I ask one?
As a supplier, I want to get legal. So
yeah,
that's my goal.
But hopefully, they will make allowances for small startups like yourself.
Yep.
And what Ross has going in his business world. They'll say, you know, we've got to give smaller businesses, like they do now. They're pushing small business in Canada. They push it. So there's got to be some allowances there, I think, because you know what? I'd be one of the first ones knocking on the door going, okay, I'd like to apply for a small business license in the cannabis business.
Yeah. I already got the business license.
Yeah, it's the cannabis license that you need now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically what I'd and I don't want any grants or anything like that. I just want to be legal.
But are they going to make that easy enough for somebody like yourself to do without $1 million price tag on it?
That's what I got to find out.
Yeah. And on
It'll
that
probably
note,
still be $500,000.
I've already got the proven products and pretty good distribution, so I just need to expand further across the country.
Yeah. So if there's anybody out there that is looking for a franchise opportunity, no, I'm just kidding.
No, but if you own a dispensary, I might happen to know a guy that has some really cool products.
Yeah, just a couple, eh?
Don't we all?
So I guess we wait and see. We're going to hurry up and wait some longer, as I called this our wait and bake. I know that Ross will be on Tamara's show on Wednesday morning. Who do you got on Wednesday, Al?
I'm not 100% sure right now.
Okay. Ross doesn't know.
Who do we got on Friday?
Jack Lloyd is going to be joining us. Yeah. Ooh.
Cool.
Yeah. And I don't know who else.
Going to read this?
What's that?
Is he going to have this all read?
You know what?
by then?
I've been kind of chatting with Jack while we've been doing this, and he's been sitting there reading and listening.
Good.
So, yes, I think he's going to read it. Yeah.
I'll save a lot of my questions for Jack then.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and make sure that we get him all set up to join us. And then, we'll find a few other people. I'm sure there's, if you've been listening and you want to join us on Friday, give me a valid reason why I should allow you.
What an ass. If you want to join us Friday, let us know and we'll make sure you get in whether he lets you or not.
It's funny.
I'm anxious to find out how long before the government responds to the recommendations now.
I'm anxious to find out if Justice Phelan says anything about it.
Yeah.
He didn't comment on August 24th.
No, but he may have been waiting for this as well, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people have been waiting for this and holding and
again, just recommendations, not legislation, not regulation, just somebody's suggestions.
Now, is there a timeline on when these regulations have to actually take hold?
Government schedule.
It's
government schedule.
Because of the
legislation,
because
this is 3 times, right?
Well, yeah, because this is recreational, not medical. It's not the government. It's not the courts that are pushing this, right?
No.
Well, no, and they've got to craft it for the federal level of government as well as each provincial and territorial government and municipal governments all have to get their shit together.
Well,
this has to go. This has to become law, unlike our medical marijuana program, which is just basically regulations.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Well, you know what? We have a 3-hour limit because that's all my brain can take. We're going to be continuing this conversation on all of our shows. We've got Coffee and Cannabis with Tamara on Wednesday mornings at 9 Eastern Time. 9 Mountain Time. 11 Eastern Time. We've got Al's show, Pace Radio, with Kim and Deb, and sometimes Allison at 8 o'clock, Pace Radio, right here at Lifestyle Radio. And, of course, we've got the 420 Radio Show, now going into our 9th year here. And we're on Fridays at 7 p.m. If you've got some time and you want to hear some real conversation, you know what? We may not be very good at this, but we're doing it. It's as simple
and
as
you're
that.
not.
And you're not. So if you have a show you'd like to put on with us or something to say, please get a hold of us. We've got open mics all over the place. We'll find a way for you to get your word heard. I'm going to say thanks to our panel. Thanks to those who have left. Thanks to anybody who has stuck it out for the last 3 hours with us. The podcast will be available freely. Download it, share it, let everybody know what's going on. This is an important thing that's going on. And it's a Canadian thing. It's a worldwide thing. And it's time to stop the epidemic of not being able to use cannabis as a medicine or recreational. Right?
And I'll never forget the date that it was released.
That's right, eh?
Oh, yes, your birthday.
On your birthday.
That's right.
Your birthday. What a present, eh?
Yeah, there you go. So
It's the least they could have done.
that's the least they could have done.
there you go, eh?
So on that
Payback
note,
for all the hard work.
on that note, happy birthday again, Deb. We are the crew of lifestyleradio.net and 420radio.ca. Please join us when you can. We're out of here.
Peace out.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
day.
Thanks for having me on.
You're listening to Lifestyle.
Hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
You like music, you like weed, well, we gonna be good friends indeed. This is how much I like more than smoking trees. They'll make you dance the do-si-do and teach you how the chiva grows. Smoke a bowl on the 420 radio show. On Lifestyle Radio.
So what are you doing?